Yeah, yeah.
And so it is that now we're live, and you've chosen Daniel for the next book. Take it away.
All right, Daniel chapter 1, New King James Version. In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar to the house of his God. And he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel and some of the king's descendants and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge, and quick to understand, who had ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies, and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they may serve before the king. Now from among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego.
I can pick up. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endangered my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat, and water to drink, and let our countenance be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the servants, or countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat, as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days.
And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children who took the portion of the kingdom. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and wine that they could drink, and gave them pulse. As for as as for these poor children, God gave them knowledge and skill, all learning and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, and the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar, and the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they stood before the king in all matters of wisdom and understanding. The king inquired of them, found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all of his realm. And Daniel counted even unto the first year of the king's child. Daniel continued, sorry. Daniel continued even until the first year of the king's child.
So, verse 1, it was the third year, the reign of Joachim, king of Judah. So, I'm going to move this over here.
Yeah, no doubt
I
that's
don't know if you'll be able to see it.
just a bad Jehoiakim, no doubt.
The bad? It
Gotta
was the king. It was the king, though.
yeah, he was the bad king. He was like the one that
Why is it all blurry?
I don't know why.
Is it just like taking a moment or something?
If he was a good king, he was good nonetheless in his reign, the captains for just being 2 years.
And if I go here and then back. There we go. Okay, so I got that roughly in 608. Pull this up a little bit. So I got Jehoiakim. So I can't remember how it was determined, if it was the bad one or the good one, or how that worked out, because it had to do with, didn't Christ have to come from that line or something, or he couldn't come from Jeconiah's line or something like that was the curse?
Correct. And there was a guy that had his name changed, but it doesn't actually ever say that. So this Jehoiakim.
Where do we find that curse, and how do we know which one? This is it.
Well, see, it's the curse of Jeconiah.
Looks like it's 2 places. 1 Chronicles.
Yeah, 1 Chronicles 3:16, the successors of Jehoiakim, Jeconiah his son Zedekiah, and Coniah. Coniah is the one that was changed.
So I mean, is it?
Coniah is the one that's changed to Jeconiah.
But is this Jehoiakim here?
Jehoiakim.
Jehoiakim, is he the same as the one in?
Oh, see, here it is.
Right
here.
Let me go back.
See, look, this is the thing. As I live, declares the Lord, though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet ring on my hand, yet I would tear you off. So that's the prophecy against him, and then this is when he actually does get, that's when it's fulfilled.
Where is the prophecy against him? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Jeremiah 22:24.
Are you familiar with that prophecy, Matthew?
Not too much.
I think it's something like that Christ can't come from that lineage or something like that. So some people say Christ wasn't the true Christ because he did come from that lineage.
Mm.
Right.
That's right. Somebody had made a video.
The Curse of Jeconiah.
Yep, you directed me to that video, so yes. I did look at that a little bit.
So this one here, Jehoiakim, right here, look, it says, though Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were the signet of my right hand, yet I would tear you off. Exactly what happened. Babylon came in, trounced them all, took them all away, blah, blah, blah. So
but this isn't where it says that, because I thought it said somewhere like he couldn't come from this lineage or something like that.
Yeah, there is something. I don't know exactly where that is. Basically, one is in the cursed line and one is not, because there's a prophecy against. Oh, let's see, it's something about the signet ring. Like, never again. He says, like, never again will there be, like, another guy on the throne. This guy.
Well, we don't have to be in a rush, so I mean,
yeah,
we can take our time. Okay, I think it's verse 30.
It's the very next verse, isn't it?
It's the last verse right here. So thus saith the Lord, write ye this man childless, a man shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling anymore in Judah.
Yeah,
so nothing can come from his seed, and so then people say, well, Christ came from his seed, so therefore Jews would say that he couldn't have been the real Messiah. So I mean, definitely a major issue right here to see if we could.
But no, there's a solution. Long and drawn out and very complicated. The short and the small of it is, there's two different Jeconiahs from two different lines, which come from two different similarly named families. It's really in the depths. Like if you watch that Curse of Jeconiah video by our EP83.
So Daniel 1. So in the third year, the reign of Jehoiakim. So I mean, why would he be the bad one though? I guess I don't understand why you're thinking.
He's the one being plucked off. Because in the verse, Jehoiakim, son of So what's his name? Son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, were a signet ring on my right hand, I would pull you off. Well,
so you're thinking that this is not.
He ain't gonna get it. Though he would be, he's not. Because he gets pulled off because he messed up.
So in here in Matthew 1:12, when it says Jeconias, you're saying that this is not the same Jeconias found in Daniel?
Correct. There's two different Jeconiahs from two different lineages, which have similar, like there's two Zerubbabels, there's two Shealtiels, there's two. You would be thrown for a loop if you didn't realize that they're talking about two different people with the same dang name. But it seems like the order was necessary. Like it had to be like this guy, then that guy, then that guy.
Well, maybe next Friday we can mention like how that was resolved.
Sure. I was just
I don't remember how we could show that, or how that all worked out.
The only way we'd be able to really show it is to show Nathan's video, and it's like a 20-minute video. So like,
right.
It really does take that long. But the short and the small of it is that there's two different guys, and this one I would think is the bad one, because why would the good one be plucked off? This is the bad one, that's why he's getting carried away to Babylon. Then later comes the good one.
Okay.
This verse, he takes the signet ring off, but then he gives the signet ring to the new guy. He said, "I will make."
This has this little footnote has this happening in 606. I'd be curious. Let's see, what did I have here? I have it. And I guess 606 or 605 as well. Just a little bit different here. So check how he gets Jeconiah. Okay. So verse 2. The Lord gave Jeconiah the king of Judah into his hand with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. There's all these different gods, and
that's the thing. Like he took the vessels from the house of God,
so he took him out of the true temple.
Yeah. Same thing with like Belshazzar was doing. He carried out the sacred vessels, right, which were for God, and he used them for his gods, like for his stuff. So it wasn't his stuff he used, but he did. He got taken in.
Because Solomon, did he take him out of Solomon's temple then?
Which he carried into the land of Shinar, into the house of his God. He brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God, his God, of his God, of his God, of his God. I guess.
Okay, so this says Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, what did the King James say?
Yeah, carried him off into the king of Babylon.
Yeah, the easy reading kind of, I don't know if it clears it up or it's right. It says, the Lord allowed Nebuchadnezzar to defeat. Yes. How do you say his name again?
Defeat Nebuchadnezzar.
No, Jehoiakim or whatever. Jehoiakim, king of Judah. Nebuchadnezzar took all the dishes and other things from God's temple. See, the other one makes it sound like Jehoiakim is the one taking him out of the temple. But this says it was Nebuchadnezzar that took him out of the temple.
Right. No, it was definitely Nebuchadnezzar that took him into the temple, because later in Daniel you'll see that that's how Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar's son, apparently, something like that, the one that he's using those very vessels for things he shouldn't be using them for, and then that's the very night Persians come in and take over.
Right. So verse 3, then King Nebuchadnezzar ordered Ashpenaz, the man in charge of his officials, to bring some of the boys into the palace to train them. He was to include the boys from among the Israelites, from important Judean families, from the royal family of Judah. I don't know what to think of that. It seems pretty straightforward.
And yeah, this whole part is just like certain dudes of the captured people are being appointed like special privileges. Like, all right, you're all the smartest dudes. Like, gather those guys together and teach them. That's how I see it. And among them were Daniel, Meshach, Azariah, and Abednego, or whatever their names are now. Hananiah, all those guys.
What was he training them for, do you think? Just to be in charge of different stuff?
Well, Babylon was the greatest country. So of course, if he conquered you, I'd be like, all right, now it's time for me to tell you about our culture. How much more better we are than them, right? So, learning time. So I would just be forcing all of my stuff and my beliefs on you. Like, welcome to America, everybody. Now you have to believe like we do. You gotta be American.
Okay, yeah, the next verse, I guess, says, according to at least the easier reading, that they're being trained to serve in the palace. They're being trained, like you said, the culture, the language, and the writings.
Yeah. All for their own, for Babylon.
So he gave them food and wine every day, the same food that the king ate. He wanted them trained for 3 years. Is that what the King James says?
Only the smartest in the world. But yeah.
So nursing them 3 years. Okay.
For the king. And then they'd be able to tell the king, I guess, like all the things that they learned real quick, and then be like, all right, you're cool.
I think probably trained for 3 years is a lot better than the King James saying nourishing for 3 years. It sounds like he was just feeding them for 3 years and then, bingo, you're smart for eating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, King James does kind of fail a lot. People don't realize.
Let's see. So verse 6, among those young men were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah from the tribe of Judah.
Right, so that's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. So of all the smart dudes, 4 of these dudes get mentioned in the story.
How does let's see.
But Daniel didn't eat the portion of the kingdom. Like they didn't do it. At least Daniel didn't.
So Ephesus gave them Babylon names. Belshazzar, or Daniel was Belshazzar, Hananiah was Shadrach, Mishael was Meshach, and Azariah was Abednego.
The prince of the eunuchs. Who's the prince of the eunuchs?
Which verse are you looking at?
7. Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names, and he gave unto Daniel the name of blah blah blah. So
does a eunuch mean that they had their private parts cut off?
Yeah. So this is the prince of the eunuchs. This is Ashpenaz, master of his eunuchs, right? It was Ashpenaz that said that. Ashpenaz wasn't even the new name. Ashpenaz being in verse.
Is there anything special about this Ashpenaz?
I don't know. The verse 3, Ashpenaz.
Master of eunuchs, the rabbi of the court, or Rab Cyrus, whatever that is. His position was similar to that of Kislar Aga of the modern Turkish sultans. So verse 8, Daniel did not want to eat the king's rich food and the wine because it would make him unclean. Right. So he asked Ashpenaz for permission not to make him unclean in this way. So God caused Ashpenaz, the man in charge of the officials, to be kind and loyal to Daniel. But Ashpenaz told Daniel, I'm afraid of my master, the king. He ordered me to give you this food and drink. If you don't eat this food, you'll begin to look weak and sick. You'll look worse than other young men your age. The king will see this and he'll become angry with me. He might cut off my head and it would be your fault. So
Yeah, exactly.
Ashpenaz didn't want to let him do what he said.
Right, but then he didn't eat and still he looked amazing even after 10 days.
So Daniel talked to the guard who had been put in charge of Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Ashpenaz. It's kind of weird, he pleased Ashpenaz, and Ashpenaz basically says no, and so then Daniel says, well, hey, if you're not going to do it, let me try the guard. So he said, please give us this test for 10 days. Don't give us anything but vegetables and eat water to drink. And then after 10 days, compare us. See for yourself who looks healthier. So the guard agreed. So after 10 days, Daniel and his friends looked healthier than from the king's food. So the guard continued to take away the king's special food and give him only vegetables. God gave these 4 men wisdom and the ability to learn many different kinds of writing and science.
Yeah, mine says
Daniel,
science too.
yours says science too?
Yeah, the King James 611 totally says science.
That's interesting. Daniel could also understand all kinds of visions and dreams. At the end of the 3 years of training, Ashpenaz brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. I'm surprised that Ashpenaz never spoke up and said, hey, you're not going to get to keep eating vegetables, if he was afraid that he was going to die. But I guess they were looking better, so then maybe he wasn't afraid anymore. So the king talked to them and found that none of the young men were as good as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So these 4 young men became the king's servants.
Right. So it sounds like maybe there's only 4.
It sounds like what?
There's only 4. Only 4 of them were chosen with the same 4 we hear about. At the beginning, I was thinking maybe it was 4 and some additional people, but now it seems it was just the 4.
So every time the king asked them about something important, they showed great wisdom and understanding. The king found they were 10 times better than all the magicians and wise men in his kingdom. Is that what the King James says too? 10 times better?
Yeah, that's what I read. And the king which verse was that?
20.
Yeah, okay. In all matters of wisdom and understanding, and the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. Daniel continued even under the first year of King Cyrus.
So when was Cyrus then? Because that'll give us an idea about how long Daniel was there.
Cyrus the Persian or Cyrus the Mede?
Cyrus the Persian or who?
Cyrus the Mede. I'm just kidding. Darius is the one who's the question, not Cyrus. We all know who Cyrus is. Cyrus is obviously that one first guy, King Cyrus.
So we got, this would have been about the 3rd year. And then when did Cyrus come along? So his servant Nebuchadnezzar, I got him over here in the green.
Right. I was just saying the Darius thing. Somewhere else it says Darius, but I'm pretty sure Cyrus and Darius are the same dude, or it's either Cyrus's son.
Okay, so I got Darius the Mede made king by Cyrus.
But there is no Darius the Mede. Like in history, according to what the historians tell us, there is no Darius. Just Cyrus and then other dudes.
So you're thinking instead of Darius the Mede made king, it was just Cyrus was the king?
Yeah, because what they used to call them in Persian was the Dariush. And Dariush sounds a lot like Darius. Dariush meaning just like the king, the leader, the head honcho.
So that would have put Daniel.
But it could have not. It might have not been Cyrus, because Cyrus was a Persian, but then got to keep in mind that the Medes at this time were the ones that were in prominent power. Like, it was the Median kingdom that was more superior. So the Dariush would have been like the ultimate head honcho. So maybe speaking about
Well, I'm just trying to think, because
king that was over, the Median king that was over Cyrus. Because Cyrus was the king of the Persians, but there was a king of the Medes as well, and the king of the Medes was far superior to the king of the Persians at the time. But they were the same kingdom, Medo-Persia. So, see, that's why it's Medo-Persia, not Persia.
Maybe this is more Cyrus the king up here then, and then Daniel only lived 60 years, maybe?
Chronologically, this is the beginning. So we have him starting in the Jewish time, and then he goes all the way up until Cyrus. So it can't be somebody after Cyrus, can it? If it's Darius, it can't be after that, because he said Daniel continued even unto the first year of King Cyrus. So he was only there for the first year of King Cyrus, right?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't tell you how long that time was. According to this chart I have here, that could have been either 40 or 70 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Daniel 1 is covering a long time. Because Nebuchadnezzar reigns 44 years, so...
No doubt. Yeah. So I think Daniel died sometime... Oh, I don't know.
So he would have died about 556. Let's see what it says about Daniel over here.
This is the book of Daniel, and now it's going to go over Nebuchadnezzar's overthrow and all that. So it won't go so far.
Daniel... Okay, was born in Jerusalem about 623 during the reign of Josiah. Are we still alive? Okay, got it real quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Did we lose someone?
No, I think the background noise that was there for some reason just cut out.
Oh, okay. So, and nearly immediately carried off to Babylon. Let's see. According to customary seek the name. Trying to see when it shows when he died. Get a little more.
Yeah, my main point with that was like there's no time in history where the historians will agree that there was a guy named Darius. So like there's got to be some sort of something going on here when it switches between Cyrus and Darius, because they seem to be doing the same thing kind of in a way, you know, in a way, but maybe from a different angle. Because like I said, it was the king of the Persians was underneath the king of the Medians. The Medians were higher up on the food chain first, and then it switched after Cyrus took over.
Well, I think that's what I had in my note, that Darius was there, and then, but maybe not, I don't know. Let's see. So he prospered in the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian, this says.
Yeah, Cyrus the Persian and Darius, the Dariush, the king at the time of Persia. The same time Cyrus was king of Persia, whoever was king of Media was the Darius, the Dariush.
So you think this Darius and Cyrus are the same people? I guess I'm a little confused.
They're co-reigning kings.
One's a Mede and one's a Persian?
Correct. That's why it's saying the Persian, not the Mede.
Okay.
And likewise, that's why it says Darius the Mede, and it says Cyrus the Persian. You know, right? Isn't that what it just said?
It says that Daniel probably greatly influenced the matter of the decree that put an end to the captivity in 536.
See, but look, right there it says Daniel 6:26. He proposed in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus. So that's exactly what I was saying. They're co-reigning at the same time. One over Media, one over Persia. But there is no Darius, according to the historians. There is no Darius the Mede.
You sure about that?
That's what I've been told. There is no such person named Darius the Mede. There's a Darius the Persian. But not a Mede.
Oh, you cut out.
Oh, no, I was just saying that there was one called Darius the Persian, but not a Darius the Mede.
In the Bible or historians?
The historians.
I can't even find Darius for some reason. Is it different in the King James? There we go.
It should be.
Okay, the King of Persia, the King of Persia.
You can find it in Ezra 4:5, Ezra 4:24 mentions Darius.
Yeah, it looks like it's King of Persia though, but Albert was saying something about the Medes. I'm not sure where were you getting that idea from or whatever.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like they're saying that there is a Darius the Persian that was a king of Persia, no doubt. But there is no Darius the Mede. It was two.
Well, I thought you said Darius over here in Daniel 6:26 was ruling the Mede.
Yes, the Median Empire, and Cyrus was co-reigning in Persia.
And but over here it says Darius.
That's a different time. That's a different time period. That's after the fact or before the fact? I think it's after the fact. Darius the Persian, I'm pretty sure, came after Cyrus the Persian.
And Daniel 5 calls him Darius the Median.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There is no Darius the Mede. There is no Median person in history that the historians say. There's no Darius the Mede. There's a Darius the Persian, which is the son of Cyrus the Persian, I think, or something like that. But there's no Darius the Mede. And I think the confusion comes in because in Persian, it's called the Dariush, the king. The head honcho is called the Dariush, very close to Darius. So it's just saying the king of this guy and the king of that guy, but it's giving you the name for one and botching the other.
Yeah, that's what the Wikipedia says. There's no Mede, but the one thing I did see in Wikipedia article under that Darius the Mede, it mentioned here that Cyrus came after Belshazzar, I think. So Daniel would have lived to almost in his 80s, probably.
Yes, he was alive, I think, until at least then, because that's in this book. But Belshazzar, went down, and that's when the Persians and Medians took over. But that's also when the Persian Empire started to become more greater than the Median, because up until that time, the Medes were far superior to the Persians. So the ultimate king was the Median king, the Darius. And then the lesser king was Cyrus, the Persian. But that all switched once they conquered Babylon. Then the Persians took over.
Let's see, it was 14 generations to David. And then I guess it's quite a ways down here still.
I can't believe you actually built this. Or did you download it? Because, like, whoo.
No, I made it.
Yeah, man. That's nice.
So it's still in the 14 generations, because I thought it was 14 generations how did that go to? 6. Oh yeah, it does change there, right? So it was 14 generations right when they were carried away to the Babylon captivity. So it was 14 generations from David to when the 70 years start in 596 or 597, depending on your view. And so Daniel would have been about, see, I think I got a problem with my chart there because, okay, no, because Nebuchadnezzar came along in about the 9th year and took it away from him. So yeah, Daniel would have been about 24 years old at the time of 70-year captivity.
Right, and that would make sense. Although I think your chart is slightly messed up because of the whole Jehoiakim, Jeconiah, all that jazz. But I think actually you might have fixed it back in the day just because of that.
Yeah, I think I got it listed. I just haven't put them in the time frame because I got it right here, Jeconiah or Jehoiakim, because there was 2 different spellings. I watched that video.
Yeah, no doubt. I know. We've definitely watched it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, welcome, Armand. Any comments on Daniel 1 at all? You came a little late into the reading. By the way, we started Daniel 1 because we finished Daniel, rather.
So Daniel would have been there for Solomon's temple being destroyed.
Yes. Because he would have been carried away into captivity, of course. I mean, how else are you going to wind up being, the king's advisor, carried away into captivity, just like Joseph, right? Like,
Yeah, wasn't he old when the Medes and the Persians took over? Wasn't he like 70?
Yeah, he was getting towards the end there, and that's, I think, exactly what it says. He died like the very first year, or the second year of the reign of Cyrus, which started after Cyrus conquered Babylon.
Now, also, do you guys know if this Cyrus is the one who gave the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem? Because there's Cyrus all over the place. You find the name mentioned a lot.
That is the exact same Cyrus. That is the one that he called out by name.
So yeah, this is in Isaiah 44:28.
No, it can't be the same one. He'd have to be super old, wouldn't he? Let's see, Media the Persian. So if this is Cyrus here, because he's Cyrus the Persian, right? So Cyrus would have been, I guess he would have been
Cyrus the Great.
I guess that's possible. He would have been in his 80s, basically, to be the same guy. I have him, let's see. Here, I don't know where to end it. I got him going like 200 years old. Obviously, he wasn't that old. But he could have been 80. That's definitely a possibility. Or no, he would have been 102. I don't know. I don't know if that'd be the same.
Totally possible. I mean, it's possible that there's another Cyrus.
Or it could be it's here, so
then it wouldn't say Cyrus the Persian. Like,
so yeah, then it'd be, so he could have been about 80, yeah, I guess. So.
Be like one of the 2 Cyrus second. Don't you would have at least filled us in if they could have?
So I just don't have Cyrus on here solidly. I got like questions all over for him.
Right.
When does Wikipedia have him?
Cyrus the Great. Just look up Cyrus the Great and Wikipedia. That's it. Don't you find it odd? We got Nebuchadnezzar. Nobody ever says Nebuchadnezzar the Great, but then we have Cyrus the Great, and then we have Alexander the Great, which
Now, see, Cyrus the Great was 559 to 530 according to history, and I thought you were saying that he was the one that destroyed. I thought you were saying he destroyed the temple or something.
yeah, man, he's the one that like it was under Babylon's reign. Babylon conquered the temple, but he was the one that conquered Babylon after that. It's two different conquerings. Babylon conquers Jews, then Persians come in and conquer Babylon, set them free, and that's why the decree is given to go ahead and let them go, back to their homeland. Because no more Babylon. Babylon's bye-bye, so you can go back to your homeland. It's cool now. So yeah, that's the same person in my mind that's giving the decree to go back. Set them free from Babylon. Yeah, Cyrus isn't conquering the Jews, he's conquering Babylon. Keep that in mind. And it just happens the Jews are in Babylon because they're under captivity.
Okay, looks like history might kind of. I don't know if it would agree with this. What Matthew's question was, though, because Daniel's prophecy starts in 457, 458, 456, basically depending on who you are or what you want to count. So he would have been 80 years old if he was at 536, and history has him reigning from 559 to 530. History has him dying here, and the prophecy wasn't for almost another 70, 60 years.
But again, I mean, I'm looking at your chart. It looks all fantastic, but like, how do I know you have everything in the right place? Like, maybe you made a little error somewhere, and that changes everything.
No, I'm not saying there's a problem in my chart. I'm saying history. The Bible doesn't agree with history.
Well, it should, though. So yeah, I mean, so far I have had no problem with history agreeing with.
Well, Matthew said, "Is this the same Cyrus?" You said yes. And so I'm just wondering. What's that?
It's got to be the same one.
Well, I mean, history has him dying in 530 BC, and we know there's no historian that would argue that.
Again, like so when you find a document from 530 BC, what does it have written on it? Does it say, "And this day I wrote this document 530 BC"? No.
Well, I'm not saying history's right. I'm just saying maybe history's wrong.
Of course, it's probably wrong sometimes, but like it should be close, roughly. It should be close. At least they should have different names. They should do the same thing but have different names, maybe.
Because who do they have after him? They have Croatius is next. Or no, that's before. Let's see.
Well, I mean, you also have to think it says later.
Candace.
It says later in Daniel, like we're going to go there. It says like there shall be 3 more kings. Three more kings that shall yet stand up in Persia. So like that's one place right there where history disagrees. Because like I don't see just this first guy and then 3 more after that.
46.
It's like 6 or 7 of them. But it's like, how do you know? Like you're going to say that was the king, but like.
Yeah, see, I don't. Where was Matthew's question coming from? Because history and the Bible agree more than this Cyrus being in charge. Because the Bible has Artaxerxes reigning. The decree comes in his 20th year, 19th. I can't remember right offhand. I think it's the 20th. And Cyrus definitely wasn't going on. So I'm not sure where Matthew's question came from. Why you were thinking Cyrus was in charge on this prophecy.
It's not that he's in charge. It's that in Isaiah 4.
Or say when it was made, I thought was your question.
Well, without even knowing like the times and putting those together, the years, it says in Isaiah 44:28, before there even is a Cyrus, it's like a prophecy of this Cyrus who's to come. And it says, who says of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and he shall perform my pleasure, saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple your foundation shall be laid. Then again in Isaiah 45:1, it says, thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have held to subdue nations before him, and loose the armor of kings, to open before him the double doors, that the gates will not be shut.
How is that not Cyrus the Great? He just
Well, no, that's not that wasn't Matthew's question though. So I'm trying to figure out how Matthew's putting the prophecy and Cyrus together.
Well, because the decree to restore and to rebuild Jerusalem is almost verbatim with Isaiah 44:28 of Cyrus saying to Jerusalem, you shall be built, and to the temple, your foundation shall be laid. So Isaiah 44 is saying that this Cyrus is going to say, Jerusalem, you shall be built, and the temple, your foundation shall be laid.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what he did.
When did he prophesy that?
Well, that's what I'm asking, because I don't know.
Yeah, because I don't think it's in there. That's I'm just saying, not even the date. Where does it say that in the Bible? I'm wondering.
It says that
definitely you got something here, obviously.
Cyrus was the one who gave the decree for them to go back to the land and rebuild the temple.
Where does it say that?
No, I'm sorry, you're saying Artaxerxes was, which was shortly thereafter, but
I'm saying the decree came there. The decree is debated whether it's Nehemiah or, let me pull my chart again here. So decree, some say Nehemiah 2:1-8.
Artaxerxes was the one that gave the decree, which was shortly thereafter Cyrus.
Now here's another verse in Ezra 6:14, and it names both Cyrus and Artaxerxes. Oh, and Darius. It says so Ezra 6:14 says, so the elders of the Jews built and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo, and they built and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel, and according to the command of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, king of Persia.
Okay, so that had to be after Cyrus and Darius were dead. Darius. Both of those guys are gone, and then you have Artaxerxes later. And so through all their decrees, yes, still makes sense.
I think they had all decreed it, but it didn't get done until Artaxerxes.
Exactly, because you can't just snap your fingers and have it be complete.
So what was that you said? It was Ezra 4?
That's Ezra 6:14.
And by the way, isn't Ezra Daniel's brother?
I've never heard that.
I think I heard that somewhere. I'm not sure where, but I have heard that Ezra is Daniel's brother.
Different Daniel.
I'm sorry.
Joe.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, Bill.
Hey, yeah, no, I was just saying a different Daniel. You're probably thinking of.
Yeah, maybe.
I think there's a couple actually mentioned before. Daniel in the 6th century or whatever.
Right.
I think, yeah. What are you guys discussing? I just get in from the gym first time in 2 months, so I'm pumped right up. And you guys were on the 70 weeks. What a topic!
Not quite on the 70 weeks, but you're all pumped up. That's good because we just switched books. We just ended Revelation and went to Daniel.
Yeah, we just started on Daniel 1, so we were talking about when did Daniel live, and trying to just look at some of the different things, and then also talk about some of the different names in there, and how he ate vegetables and was healthier, and how he was 10 times smarter than all the other trainees that Nebuchadnezzar liked him 10 times better, basically, or thought he was 10 times smarter, and his helpers there, Meshach, Abednego, and what was the other guy's name?
Yeah, those guys, Meshach,
Shadrach.
It's funny though, you know, most people kind of call them by their
Babylonian names.
yeah, and all the stories kind of go more with that.
Yep, and Daniel's always called Daniel, which is funny.
No, it's
Right.
no, it's Daniel, the name of Belteshazzar.
Belshazzar.
That's why maybe it's called Bell and the Dragon. It's the secret hidden 13th chapter of Daniel. But yeah, any of you guys that came in newer, Armand or you know, not, I know you weren't here for the reading per se, but I mean, you could skim it real quick. Or Joel, any comments at all on Daniel chapter 1 at all? Anything stands out?
Well, I'm just getting in. I'm just going to listen for a bit here, guys. But I never met Armand. I think last time I was here, I just want to say hi to Armand. I don't think we really met or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if we had. I think I might have caught. I don't know, or I might have been listening in or something. But yeah, nice to meet you. And is it Joel? I see Joel.
Yeah, it's Joel. Armand. Yeah, it's Joel. Yeah, I just want to say hi. And yeah, good meeting you there. I'm just going to listen here for a bit, guys, and I'll join in.
Oops, looks like Armand just got booted for a minute. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, got disconnected.
Good old disconnect. Yeah, so I see here in Daniel, it's laying out the foundation really for like what Daniel's going to say. Like it's saying like this is how we got here. Like these are the guys. Like this is what's going on. Like nothing's happened yet. It's just saying like these guys were the guys that were chosen to be like the king's dude because they were smart. Blah blah blah.
We want to move to Daniel 2. I mean, Daniel 2 gets pretty meaty.
Well, I mean, I'm totally down to do Daniel 2 if you guys are down, but here's the thing about Daniel 2. 49 verses, bro. 49 verses. So that needs to be split multiple ways, no doubt. And only if you guys are down. I mean, two of you guys just got here, so I mean, but two of you guys are also just, you know, not trying to read or anything. I mean, I'm down if you want to try and conquer it, Rob. What do you want to take the first 7? I'll take the second 7, and then we'll see if anybody else feels kind, and if not, we'll just keep going back and forth till we're done.
Well, I'm just gonna put on some coffee there and get something to eat, and then I'll just shower up probably after the study tonight. But Daniel 2, yeah, if you guys want to get into that, start reading that, man. I mean, it's a good chapter.
We could do like the first. Let's see if we could do like maybe the first 21 verses of Daniel 2, maybe. Or do we want to do the whole chapter?
We got to get to the kingdom. Come on.
If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it. Like we just either ping pong and hope Matthew will help us out, or maybe Joel, you can kind of 7 verses or something in your busyness. Anybody? I think we can do it. I can get us at least to 14.
Yeah, I'll read some. Well, just holler to me, and I'll read whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll read some too. So.
All right. Cool.
Sounds like we're gonna make it.
Yeah, I think we'll make it. We'll just start off, and if anybody slacks and nobody wants to read anymore because they just did, I guess I'm the commander. I'll just have to do it. All right. So here we go. Chapter 2. And in the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. Then the king commanded to call the magicians and the astrologers and the sorcerers and the Chaldeans to show the king his dreams, so they came to stood before the king. King James 16:11. King said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king. Spake the Chaldeans to the king of in Sirach. O king, ever tell thy servants the dream. We will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from me. If you will not make known unto me the dream with the interpretations thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. If ye show the dream and the interpretation thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards and great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. And they answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation of it. And the king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. Sorry, this King James is terrible. Nothing like your easy reading. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you. Ye shall have, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me, till the time be changed. Therefore, tell me the dream, and I will show you. That ye can show me the interpretation thereof. The Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore, there is no king, lord, no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magicians, astrologers, or Chaldean. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods, whose dwelling is not with flesh. For this cause the king was angry and very furious, and commanded to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. And the decree went forth that all the wise men should be slain, and that they sought Daniel and his fellows to be slain. Then Daniel answered with counsel and wisdom to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, which was gone forth to slay the wise men of Babylon.
I can pick up. So he answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree so hasty from the king? Then Arioch made the thing known to Daniel. Then Daniel went in and desired of the king that he would give him time, and that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, and his companions, that they would desire the mercies of God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then was the secret revealed unto Daniel in a night vision. Then Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. And he changeth the times and seasons. He removeth the kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us this king's matter. Therefore Daniel went into Arioch, whom the king had ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus unto them, destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me in before the king, and I will show unto the king the interpretation. Then Arioch brought in Daniel before the king in haste, and said thus unto him, I have found a man of the captives of Judah that will make known unto the king the interpretation. The king answered and said to Daniel, whose name was Belshazzar, art thou able to make known unto me the dream which I have seen, and the interpretation thereof? Daniel answered in the presence of the king, and said, the secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king? But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. Anyone else want to pick up?
Joel, you want to go?
Yeah, sure, guys. Where at verse 30 or
verse 29?
Okay, where do you want me to read?
Just like 14 or so.
Just wait a second here. What's that?
To like 43.
Okay. As for you, O king, while on your bed your thoughts turn to what would take place in the future, and he who reveals mysteries has made known to you what will take place. But as for me, this mystery has not been revealed to me, for any wisdom residing in me any more than any other living man, but for the purpose of making the interpretation known to the king, and that you may understand the thoughts of your mind. You, O king, were looking, and behold, there was a single great statue. That statue, which was large and of extraordinary splendor, was standing in front of you, and its appearance was awesome. The head of the statue was made of fine gold, its breast and its arms silver, its belly and its thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. You continued looking until a stone was cut out without hands and struck the statue on its feet of iron and clay and crushed them. Then the iron and clay, the bronze, the silver, the gold were crushed all at the same time and became like chaff from the summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away so that not a trace of them was found. But the stone that struck the statue became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. Verse 36, this was the dream. Now we will tell you its interpretation before the king. You, O king, are the king of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power, the strength, and the glory. And wherever the sons of men dwell, or the beasts of the field, or the birds of the you're the head of gold. There's another kingdom inferior to you, then another third kingdom of bronze, which will rule over all the earth.
I'll take verse 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters everything, and like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Whereas you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. Yet the strength of the iron shall be in it, just as you saw the iron mixed with ceramic clay. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile. As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another, just as iron doesn't mix with clay. And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great God has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain, and its interpretation is sure. Then King Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, Truly, your God is the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret. Then the king promoted Daniel and gave him many great gifts, and he made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon and chief administrator over the wise men of Babylon. Also Daniel petitioned the king, and he set Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego over the affairs of the province of Babylon. But Daniel sat in the gate of the king.
Nice.
Cool. A lot of stuff there.
Oh man, there is a lot of stuff there.
So verse 1.
Yeah, I don't have anything until about verse 21, I don't think. So.
So let's see. Basically.
Oh, actually, Chaldeans. Speak to the Chaldeans. I guess that means that Daniel, Meshach, all those guys are all Chaldeans. Right? Like, why is it saying spoken to the Chaldeans?
No, it can't be that, because he says, Daniel says, no magician, astrologer, or Chaldean could answer.
Right.
Or
Right.
is he saying, I am a Chaldean?
You're right. The Chaldeans are the sorcerers and the astrologers and all those guys. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, verse 10. And then, so the king, I think we're all pretty familiar with the king, I think, and the story here. See where it gets. Okay, so verse 17, he makes the dream. Did anyone have anything before verse 17? I'll take the silence as a negative. So let's see. So Daniel went into the house. So the God of heaven was going to, so God basically gave the vision to Daniel. And then Daniel blessed God. Verse 21. So I guess we're to your point.
21 was it just struck me curious. That's all. Like, I remember a verse in Revelation or somewhere where it says, something like, he shall change the times and the seasons. Well, it just says it right here, and he shall change it the times and the seasons. It just struck me weird. What do you guys think about that?
I think it's just referring to the Father, isn't it, though?
Well, no, it's talking about times and seasons. It says, and he changeth the times and the seasons, he removeth kings and setteth up kings, giveth wisdom unto the wise and the knowledge unto them that know understanding.
When it says times and seasons, I think it's just the stars and sun and moon and stuff, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The changing of the times and seasons has nothing necessarily to do with like the winter and the summer.
No, I think it does. I don't think it has to do with changing the time and seasons, that other verse that you're referencing. I think this is just talking about your...
What do you mean? Why does it have a colon after, it says changes...
Because it's just showing his power. God has control of everything, I think is all it's saying. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Yeah, that's kind of what I get from it, too. Plus, the colon wouldn't be in there in the original text.
Wait.
Any of the punctuation.
It's referring to God. See, Daniel just got done blessing God, and then it tells you his wisdom and his might, and it's telling you all the things God can do.
Right, but there's a colon. Colon.
Well, I don't get what you're thinking about the colon. Explain.
I'm just saying, like, I just remember the verse from Revelation where it says, "He shall think to change times and seasons." Who?
Yeah, that was talking about a king, though, not God. You're putting two things together that aren't related.
No, I'm just saying it's the same, similar speak. That's all.
Oh yeah,
and that was.
I think it's Daniel 7:25.
Yeah, it is Daniel 7:25.
And I'm not saying that it's the same event or anything. I'm just saying it's similar speak.
Right.
He shall think, change times and laws. On that little horn. And some people, that take the Maccabean thesis would say, well, that's Antiochus because he did do that. I don't take that view, obviously, but yeah, he shall think to do this. Whoever the little horn, whoever you make it out to be.
So yeah, so he gives him the vision, 21, I think, and 22, still referring to God's great power. Let's see. So, and then 23 praises God. So he thanks him again for showing him the vision to tell the king. So then Daniel goes to Arioch. Is Arioch just like the king's counselor or something?
Kind of looks like it.
Yeah.
I think was he the one who was over Daniel and them?
Yes.
Yeah. He was
He was
basically
the one
kind of
in verse 1, wasn't he?
I think,
I
or
mean, in
in
chapter
chapter
1.
one. Yeah, I think he was
Yeah.
the one in chapter 1.
He was the one where he tried to convince him to eat the vegetables, and Arioch said no. And so then he went to the guard. Okay, so he went, so he pretty much went to Arioch, and Arioch brought him right to the king really in a hurry for some reason.
Yeah, because he was like, well, because they were about to all be put to death. So he's like, quickly, hurry up. We got to get these guys here before they all get killed. Because apparently this guy's got the solution to your problem. Probably looking for a promotion or something, right?
So, do we want to go to verse 31 where he interprets the dream?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything other than 3. Not that I know of.
Anyone else got anything before verse 31?
I gotta make a phone call, so I gotta make a phone call, so I'll have to get off, and then I'll hopefully try to get back on. So
okay, cool. So verse 31, I thought Joel's version was pretty interesting compared to the King James. It called the image awesome, and the King James calls it terrible. Let's see how the easy reading.
Verse 31.
Well, like, what is awesome to you today versus what awesome means? Like, it was awesome in my sight. That just means it. You could say terrible or awesome. They could be interchangeable. But
New American Standard Bible. It's one of those perversion Bibles, you know, guys.
Well, the easy reading version says very impressive, which would agree with awesome. Let's see what the literal says.
There is a verse somewhere, the
Looks like it's
terrible day of the Lord.
Yeah, the literal puts it as dreadful. What do you think, Armand or Matthew?
Yeah, fearful, terrible. Let's see, corresponding to slink, to fear, be formidable.
So it's bright. Go ahead, Matthew.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say New King James just has awesome as well.
I mean, those seem like almost opposite concepts. You know, when I think of a great statue that's awesome, I think positive. When I think of a great statue that's terrible, I kind of think that statue is not so good.
What would you say if you saw a giant meteor? A giant meteor coming right at your face. You'd be like, oh, that's awesome, but it's also terrible.
Right. Yeah, I think they can be used interchangeably.
Just saying.
It's really awesome. Wait, I'm going to get destroyed.
Exactly. Like,
that's terrible.
Awesome day of the Lord.
It's just a testament to how words change meanings, you know, like I love it when Abraham's covenant is being made and it says that there is a horror of darkness in the King James Version. I mean, would you ever say that? A horror of darkness, you know?
So verse 32, I think this is talking about, we're getting into the 4 different...
Now we're into the images, which are clearly, you know, I think at least all of us are mostly in agreement, on what those guys are.
So the head's Babylon, Media Persia is the breast and arms, silver. Greece is the belly and thighs. Rome is the legs of iron, feet, iron, and part clay. Do we all pretty much agree on that?
Yeah, I mean,
I guess that.
And do we all agree that the clay is Israel?
Well, see, that's the thing I was going to say. Like, what about the toe? That's where people are going to get hung up, is on the toe.
I think, I don't know if it's, I mean, when you say Israel, do you mean just the Jews, like physical lineage of Abraham, or do you mean like Israel as in believing Israel at that point?
No, I mean ethnic or national Israel. You know, if the toes are the iron and there's 10 of them, it could be representative of the 10 procurators. You know, the split splitting the divisions of Rome at the time, and also because they conspired together with the Pharisees to kill Jesus. They're mingling together until, like in Revelation, where it says the woman who rides the beast is Rome, Israel is the woman, but then the beast turns on the woman.
Mhm.
So I see the toes as Israel and Rome mingling together, but then the beast turns on, but then the stone cut without hands comes and crashes the whole thing down, sets up
What did you
kingdom.
What did you say that word was? I know you and Armand have said that a few times. Procurators or something like that.
Like Herod,
Like
they're procurators.
Right.
I don't really.
They're like kings or whatever. But that's an interesting take that could be Israel. You could be onto something. I always took it as it was the 10 imperial provinces of Rome, but
But specifically the clay. You know what I mean? If you have iron, which is a
Because
takeoff,
Rome and Jerusalem was kind of teaming up there.
right? And the
oh,
iron comes
most
out of the legs. What's that, Joel?
No, most definitely. I mean, the Jews would instigate Rome during the first imperial persecution, under Nero there in 64 when that broke out. The Jews were the ones, I guess, in his inner circle as well. That kind of got him going. So yeah, that's a possible interpretation, I guess.
Well, there was a very political thing going on there. The extreme elders were able to just walk in there, and it's almost like it's almost like lobbyists walking into government buildings and of today.
What were you thinking that clay was, Armand?
So I guess I've kind of like thought of it as possibly like believers at the time, but I mean, I could definitely at the very least, like Israel, like kind of how they were kind of scattered among, the Roman, the empire. And then even this, the idea of the provinces is pretty interesting. So I'm not super familiar, but was it like 10 provinces like that encompass or basically that made up the Roman Empire?
I believe there was exactly 10. Yeah, I
Okay.
can't name
That's
them all.
interesting.
The
So
No,
Go ahead,
I'm pretty
Armand.
sure there's 27 provinces in the Roman Empire in the first century, 27, but 10 of them were imperial, it's senatorial in a way, and they didn't have any garrisons or anything like that because the empire thought that they wouldn't rise up in revolt or whatever, these provinces. And I actually think Judea, Palestine was one of them, and yet they did revolt. But there's 27, I believe, in the first century. I could be wrong.
Maybe the next verse, when we get into that, might shed some light on who maybe the clay. Maybe we can work that out. But we all agree Babylonia, Media, Greece, Rome, and then we kind of have some outline questions about the clay.
Right. Before we go there, I will just remind you that in verse 40 it said, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for so much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all shall it break into pieces and bruise." And then it says, "Whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of the potter's clay." That's definitely what I think Matthew was saying. Part of the potter's clay, and part of iron, the thing he just talked about. The kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be of it the strength, or in it the strength of iron, or so
Well,
much.
I would think that'd be actually more in support of what Armand said, because Armand said believers, which isn't the potter's clay the believers.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Or is potter's clay just mean more what Matthew said, that he made Israel the potter's clay?
It's
part.
It's both.
Go ahead.
Part. That's where it's saying they're mixed. Because
But the stone comes down and smashes the thing to pieces. The stone doesn't
Right,
smash.
that's what I was saying. Maybe
believers.
34 might give us a better idea. Maybe we should jump to 34.
well, hold on, because like there is a thing here. Like this is part of the thing that like people always come on me on, and they're like, see, but it says that they're you know that their seed shall mingle with them. You know, like let me get there real quick. But hold on. For as much as you sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet.
Well, isn't miry clay bad, like dirty clay, though? It's like kind of unclean. Isn't that what Murray means?
Yes, true. Yeah, it is more like mucky.
That's why I'm thinking it's more like what. So I'm thinking maybe it's more like Armand's thinking. I mean, Matthew, excuse me.
So it should be partly strong.
Because I think Israel was called the potter's clay, but not necessarily believers.
It was partly strong and partly broken. I mean, you have the guys who are gung ho, and you have the guys who are like, nope, I give up.
Yeah, the more I read it, like I would probably have to like lean towards what Matthew's saying in terms of the because basically 45 talks about the iron. For whatever reason, I couldn't remember if it said the clay was destroyed with the iron, but it definitely does. So broken pieces, the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. So to me, I'm thinking, more than likely the clay probably is physical Israel, and that's with them mixed within the Roman Empire, mixed throughout the Roman Empire. I guess that would make sense.
That's kind of where I'm going to.
The Roman Empire is nothing more than the mixed miry clay, whatever you have.
The iron.
It's all the other kingdoms just all in one, like
right.
But in verse 3 is verse 43 is the verse that I have to bring up just because the whole the whole fallen angel thing. But it says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. That is definitely talking about the two different groups of people, the believers and the non-believers.
Why do you say that? Why do you say that?
Has nothing to do with angels.
Well, no one's saying anything to do with angels, but why do you say believers?
I just had to say that on the hangout. Not that you're saying that. I'm saying people say that.
Well, I know, but why would you say believers here? You confused me on that.
Sorry, maybe I didn't mean to use the word believer, but it's the Jews.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
No, you go.
No, just very quickly. I think Matt could be right on the other texts there. The 10 would be the 10 toes of the provinces, maybe in the 10 horns of Daniel 7. But right here, what was just brought up makes sense. It would be ethnic Israel mixed in within the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? God's people. You know what I mean? That kind of makes sense.
So the seed of men would be Rome, basically.
Exactly. It says in those days, the king of
Well, I have another very interesting. I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard what I'm about to say now. And I was just watching a video of Joel's, as a matter of fact. Nice. Joel, where you were talking about Romans 11:25. I think it's is Paul and Israel's covenant promises, but then you went in the direction of Romans 11, where it talks about the times of the Gentiles. I'm going to suggest something that's going to sound off the wall at first. Maybe you guys can hear me out, because this statue here is depicting 4 Gentile powers that were to rule over Israel during the 70-week prophecy, or even starting before the prophecy began. So Gentile powers over Israel until something happens and bashes the whole thing to pieces. So if you look at Romans 11, this mysterious phrase, fullness of the Gentiles here, as dispensationalists look at this, they say that fullness of the Gentiles means the church age, where Gentiles get saved after God puts Israel on hold. It's that gap we were talking about before. a ridiculous interpretation, but we got to be careful not to bring that interpretation over into preterism, into true preterism. So what is the fullness of the Gentiles? It coincides with the time that Israel is no longer blinded. So what Paul's saying here is that, hey, Roman Gentiles, don't be high-minded, because Israel's blindness in part, it's happened until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in. What I'm going to suggest is that this means, the fullness of the Gentiles means the Gentile period that was prophesied, where Gentiles would rule over Israel until Israel was actually no more. If Israel's done away with in 70 AD, they cannot be blinded anymore. They're not a nation. So if you tie this in with Luke 21:24, it says, "And they will fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled." So this phrase, times of the Gentiles fulfilled, is just another way of saying fullness of the Gentiles be come in. It's the time when Israel no longer is blinded. And there's one more verse that will tie it together. It's in Isaiah 6, and that's where God first tells Isaiah to pronounce blindness on the nation. And Isaiah asks, how long?
Right,
And
but it's not for all Israel, though. It's just for
Paul tells you in Romans that it's partial, because there's a remnant being saved there. But
yeah.
The answer that God gives Isaiah is, until the cities are laid waste and without inhabitant, the houses are without a man, and the land is utterly desolate.
Which cities?
Well, it's talking about Jerusalem here.
Exactly.
So God is telling Isaiah, the blindness is, that I'm telling you to put on Israel, is going to end when the land is utterly desolate. That's when Israel is no more, 70 AD.
Well, Isaiah 6 was originally fulfilled during the captivity of the Babylonian, but it is applied by Christ in Matthew 13 when he starts his parabolic ministry. He quotes from Isaiah 6,
right?
And then Paul in Acts chapter 28 quotes from Isaiah 6, and when they do quote that, they're saying, hey, the time is coming that this is going to be repeated in Isaiah. But the video that I did was basically upon Israel's promises, covenantal promises within Romans chapter 10, Ephesians 2, 2 Corinthians 2-7, Acts 13. Acts 13 and Romans 10 is amazing. But yeah, I made the point, the fullness of the Gentiles, but Matt, what you said there, I do disagree. Most people do think that Luke 21:24 is the same as Romans 11, but the dispensationalists do that too, right?
No, they don't.
If I just had to use the restroom real quick, and then my thing cut out. So you were saying we can't.
The way I see it, I could be wrong because it's a difficult passage, of course. But the fullness of the Gentiles, well, Paul just speaks of that in Romans chapter 10, how the Gentiles are coming in under his ministry is to provoke Israel to jealousy. And he quotes a litany of passages to show that this is prophetic. Joel chapter 2, verse 32, that's the regathering of Israel into the land. He quotes Deuteronomy chapter 30. Deuteronomy 30 is the restoration of Israel in her latter days. You have a restoration, then her judgment, Deuteronomy 32.
Right, but as preterists,
by Paul.
And could I just interrupt you real quick?
Yeah,
before you start, Matthew. I thought you were done, Joel. But I missed. I'm guessing you're saying that we can't attribute, because I missed it because I cut out. We can't attribute the fullness of the Gentiles to preterism. Is that what you were saying, basically, Matthew? Then I just had one other quick question so I can get up to speed.
Well, yeah, I'm equating. I see all three passages having to do with the end of the blindness of Israel. Paul says, Israel is
So
blinded in
Romans
part
11, Isaiah
until,
6, and something else.
and Luke 21.
Okay, and how did that come out, Daniel? I guess I missed that.
The reason I brought it up is because if what I'm saying is correct, then those times of the Gentiles, like when Jesus says in Luke, Israel will be trodden down by the Gentiles. Okay, now he's not talking about believers like Paul is talking about in Romans 9 and 10, but he's talking about the Gentiles that will trod down Jerusalem. He says Jerusalem will be trod down by Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled.
Hmm.
So what's the times of
I missed your crazy point was my other question because you said that you had something that maybe we'd never heard before. Because
that
I've heard you
that
bring this point up before.
that the times of the Gentiles pertains to the statue of Daniel, the four Gentile powers that rule over Jerusalem until the stone cut without hands breaks the whole thing down.
I guess I'm not sure what you're saying.
Does anybody else
Because the stone, I mean, if we, because you're just saying that this has to be future or something. What
Oh
you're
no,
what you're
I'm saying
saying?
it all came to pass in 70 AD.
But what was your thing that we never heard before that might like shock us? I
Well,
don't.
that the fullness of the Gentiles be come in Romans 11 has to do with the Gentile nations that prophecy being ended, and Israel's blindness also ends at the same time because Israel is done away. At 70 AD, the genealogical records are destroyed. Israel's not a nation anymore. God's no respecter of persons. And there is no blindness of Israel for the last 2,000 years. They can come to Christ just like any Gentile can. They're the same.
Gotcha,
There's no difference, is what Paul
gotcha.
is getting at in all of Romans.
And what part can't we attribute to full preterism? I guess I'm just a little bit.
Oh, no,
Maybe
no,
I
I wasn't
missed it.
talking about full. I'm just talking about preterism, whether it's full or partial, seeing 70 AD as the culmination of
You mean
Israel,
the?
the nation,
I don't know what culmination means.
the fulfillment, the end of it.
We can't see that as 70 AD.
No, you can.
Okay, I thought you said can't because you've
Yeah.
always said can. Okay, yeah. Okay, but what you were saying, Armand?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, I guess kind of hearing that, I would probably agree. Um, yeah, I think for me though, when it comes to like Luke 24, I'm sorry, not Luke 24, but what is this? Luke 21:24, where it talks about will be trodden down by the nations until the times of the nations are fulfilled. I do have to wonder if there were believers. Well, I don't necessarily. I don't believe there were believers on the earth up until 70 per se, but I definitely think. Let me see here. I'm just trying to look at Romans 11 until the fullness of the. Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if those are parallel or not, really, until the fullness of the nations have come in.
Would you
Because
say,
I'm
Armand, would you say that Luke 21:24 is pertaining to 70 AD?
absolutely like so. Basically, like when I read this, I'm seeing okay, fall by the edge of the sword, and not necessarily in order per se, but like and will be led captive into all nations. So led captive into all nations. That was probably like the last thing that happened.
Right?
But he then goes into, and Jerusalem will be trodden down by the nations until the times of the nations are fulfilled. So I'm looking that at the times of the nations being fulfilled, there is the time. I kind of like, I think you said at one point, the time in which the nations were coming against Jerusalem to basically put an end to it ultimately.
Now listen to this. If you look at Paul's line of reasoning in
Mm-hmm.
Romans 11, he's gone through all of Romans so far to tell you that Abraham believed before he was circumcised. Therefore, being Israel really doesn't have any advantage. Like the
Right.
question he asked in chapter 3, in Romans 2, there is no difference. He says there's no difference again in Romans 10. So he's trying to show you that salvation is by faith for those of the law. If they are the the heirs, then the promise is made void and of none effect. So he's trying to show you that Israel is pretty much done for, but he's trying to do it in a very nice way because he's an Israelite of Israelites, and he's trying to say this is how all Israel will be saved. So he's also referring to 70 AD.
When you say also, what are you hinting at, that there's something else besides 70 AD?
No. I'm saying both passages, Romans 11 and Luke 21, are referring to 70 AD, the end of Israel.
That's what you meant by also. I thought you were meaning something different.
And they mention, and Romans 11 mentions the blindness ending. And Isaiah 6 says the blindness is going to end when the city is trodden down or gone away. So I see them all tying together. It sounds crazy because you read the blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the
Most people today would say Israel's blind, the Jewish nation's blind, you know, eventually they're going to see. So did you have anything before we go back to Daniel 2:34, Armand? Sound like you maybe had something.
Oh, let me see here. I'm just trying to look at one other thing here. So I guess my thinking on the timing, I think everything does kind of coincide, like you're saying. I'm just thinking that, I don't know. I'd have to look at that a little bit more, just in terms of.
You're just wondering about Isaiah 6 and Romans 11, basically not matching up because it sounds real nice.
No, it definitely does. But I'm just thinking from a standpoint of like, what does it say here? And so all Yisrael will be saved, even as it is written. But of course, we know that's talking about the believing, not the non-believing. But I guess my thing is, where I'm trying to match it up is the timing, given that 66 AD is the time when I believe Yeshua came, and therefore everyone would have been delivered at that time, if that makes sense. So like all Israel that was going to be saved of that generation was saved at that point.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm seeing all Israel as Paul's way of saying anyone who believes in Christ. You know, if you're Christ, you're Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise type thing, you know?
Yeah.
Right. And I think we're on the same page there.
Well, I would say that's impossible. You know.
Yeah, let's let Joel. We interrupted Joel. Let's hear Joel.
No, I'm just having fun too, guys, man. If you read Romans 9 through 11,
right?
Every time you see Israel, it means ethnic Israel. Every single time.
No, it doesn't.
Ethnic Israel.
What about
the
9:6?
And the dispensationalists do say that Luke 21:24 is identical to the fullness of the Gentiles of Romans 11:25.
Right.
But they're different in my opinion. There's a difference between 11:20 or Luke trodden down,
right,
and the fullness of what did he just talk about? Romans chapter 10, the salvation of the Gentiles. What's Romans 11? Right. The salvation of Israel. The fullness of the Gentiles is when the gospel fully went out.
Right.
According to Christ's command, when they fully went out, the fullness of the Gentiles came in. The second Exodus is complete. Zion is restored. This is what Paul is talking about in Romans 11.
Right, but why? I guess I get all what you said there, Joel, but I don't get why you say that when Matthew says that Israel was anyone that maybe would believe, ethnic or not, that can't be. I don't get why you don't think that can be true. Could you maybe?
Well, I don't believe in replacement theology, number one, but I mean, I don't believe in
replacement theology. You're just saying that. So you believe that there's a restoration for the ethnic Israel? Is that what you're saying?
No. What I'm saying is that when we see Israel in the New Testament, it's ethnic Israel, especially Romans 9.
But I thought replacement theology was like, it's only Christians and there's no more physical Israel.
Gentiles become Israel. No, it's ethnic Israel. It's the faithful remnant that was promised in the prophets that was coming in. The Gentiles were coming in, making that one new man, that rebuilding.
Well, right, but isn't ethnic Israel still have the ability, like Matthew said, though, to become a Christian?
Oh yeah, absolutely. All I'm saying is if you, I mean, even if you just watch that video, what I'm saying is I believe that the promises to Israel were fulfilled in the faithful remnant that was coming in, like part of the body of Christ. Ethnic,
But they still
real
believe.
ethnic
But they
Israel.
still
I believe.
believed in Christ, though, right?
What's that?
But they believed in Christ, though, right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It's the
But
faithful
that's what
remnant that
Matthew
was
is
coming
saying,
in.
and you're saying no. I don't get.
No, no,
I
I'm
don't
saying
know.
a Gentile was not Israel. I'm saying a Gentile was
Yeah.
never.
I am kind of seeing what Joel's seeing in this one, in just in terms of the breakdown. So, like, there's a contrast between verse 25, Israel, and the fullness of the Gentiles, or the fullness of the nations. Then he goes into, and so all Israel will be saved, even as it is written, there will come out of Sion a deliverer, and he will turn away wickedness from Jacob. This is my covenant to them. I will take away their sins. Concerning the good news, they are enemies for your sake, but concerning the choice, they are beloved for the Father's sake. So I
So
am
they were
definitely
actually
seeing.
against Christ. Is
Well,
that what
so
you're
like I think
saying?
so. What he speak, I think this goes to the point of like he
Or
was looking
against
at it as
faith,
physical.
maybe?
Yeah, more or less, but like he was looking at it as Israel, and I think he was getting across the point that all Israel will be saved, but ultimately it is a remnant, right? So like
Uh,
the promise is true. It's just that
Yeah,
it's a remnant, and I think that's what he's trying to get them to understand.
yeah, yeah.
But I think you definitely see a contrast.
Yeah, I mean, it's fulfillment theology. I call it. It's not dispensationalism. Obviously, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in fleshly promises. I believe they're spiritual. But the promises were to Israel, and it's faithful Israel, that remnant that was promised, came in, and then the Gentiles, of course, making that messianic tabernacle, that the tabernacle of David.
But
You know,
Joel,
so yeah.
when you say the promises were made to Israel,
Hmm.
um, wouldn't you like I would clarify that, and I would say the shadow of the promise was made to Israel, but we now in the new covenant have a better promise, a better covenant built on better promises, and that includes Jew and Gentile together.
well, I think you guys are saying the most thing, saying the same thing. I think your timing is just a little different. Joel has the remnant being saved sometime in 70 AD or roughly around then, and then after 70 AD, I believe Joel would say there is no ethnic Israel or no.
I would agree
We're
with that.
all one and the same,
I would
and I
agree.
think that's what you're saying too, Matthew.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit of timing issue.
Joel, would you say that in 26, because you said every time the word Israel is mentioned in Romans, it's ethnic Israel. I would disagree. When it says not in Romans 9:6, it says not all Israel is Israel. You have two Israels in one sentence.
Yeah.
Now, what about in 11:26 where it says and the word and so in Greek means in this manner all Israel will be saved. Not as you thought, but in this manner. So what manner is he talking about? The fact that Israel is going to be done away with. I mean, that is the seed. Unless a seed goes to the ground, it represents Christ. He goes to the ground, produces a crop, but it's also speaking about Israel. Israel as a nation has to die. That's why Paul keeps harping on the fact that Israel is blinded, so salvation go to the nations. But wouldn't you say that and so all Israel will be saved? Can't be speaking about ethnic Israel because 2 verses later he says they, Israel, are enemies for your sake.
Well, he
Who is
said a
that?
remnant, not all Israel.
Right.
So I think you guys are agreeing. It's just the timing.
Well, let me hear what Joel says. I'm curious.
Well, Romans 9:6 is speaking of the faithful remnant within national Israel. It's not any Christian Joe Blow on the street. This is when he says, "But it is not as though the word of God has failed." Well, what did he say before that? It's not as though the word of God has failed. He speaks of Israel has the covenants,
The
they have the
promise.
promises, they have the adoption. That's the Abrahamic covenant.
Right.
And he said, "It's not as though the word of God has failed."
Right.
God was to be faithful to his promises. And so when he says it is, it's not as though God has failed, for they are not all Israel who are descendants from Israel. He's saying there's a remnant within national Israel. You read right through Romans 9 through 11, there's no way you can make Israel. Israel is fallen, chapter 10. They're enemies. That's not the church. That's not Christians or Gentiles.
Can we say, when he says not all Israel is Israel, can we substitute one Israel with children of God? Not all Israel are children of God, right? So yes, at the time he's saying, okay, not everybody within Israel became children of God. That's obvious.
Joel said it differently. Joel said it was descendants of Israel, so you guys are thinking two different things.
Oh, yeah. But no, I wanted to back up something Matt said about the promises and that. The promises are found within the prophets, within the law and the prophets and the Psalms. That's where the promises originate, and they're reiterated in the New Testament. Mm-hmm. And Peter and Paul and Christ interpret them spiritually.
Right.
But I don't believe we have the New Testament comes along and, we have the doctrine of the resurrection. We have the doctrine of no. This is Old Testament promises to Israel and to the nations that would stream in to Zion.
Right, but
that's the church, the body of Christ. That's the church.
It's interesting. Do you see the easy reading version that I have up, Matthew? Because it reads the way Joel says it reads.
No, let me take a look. Where is it? Which verse you?
I think you guys are talking Romans 9:6 and 9:7. If you click my little thing,
yeah.
Or maybe it reads the way you read it, but I think you can read it the way maybe.
Are really God's people? Sure, that's a good interpretation. Yeah.
But see, it says some people of Israel, so it's talking about the remnant, the way Joel reads it, some of the descendants of Israel are really God's people.
Right, but where
you're saying that whole sentence is the children of God. I think that's a little different than what Joel's saying.
No, that's not what I said. Paul's just making the point. He's asking why does it appear that the promises have failed? Has the word of God failed? No. And not all Israel is Israel. So he's basically saying not everybody within Israel was going to be a believer. And now the thing is blown open wide where anyone can believe. So that his whole point is that Israel had to die as a nation so that the salvation could go to the world. But there's a remnant within Israel at this present time, he says, that's getting saved. At his present time, he was talking.
Well, let me see it. Romans chapter 3, he's reiterating something he said in Romans chapter 3 here. What then? Romans 3:3, what then? If some did not believe, mm-hmm. their unbelief will not nullify the faithfulness of God, will it? May it never be. Rather, let God be true and every man be mm-hmm. found a liar. And so God, all through the prophets, we see it's spoken of the faithfulness of God. God is faithful. He's faithful to his promises. He's faithful to the Abrahamic, Davidic, New Covenant. He's faithful. He's faithful. And so we see this over and over again. And Paul's saying in Romans 9 through 11, hey, the promises, and even in other texts, like to say, Acts chapter 13, very, very clearly, the restoration of Israel, the Israel within Israel, there's an Israel within Israel is what he's saying. They're coming in. They're being saved. They're receiving the promises.
We agree.
Yeah, awesome. That's why I said you guys were agreeing. I think you're just having a tough time picking up on the language. So, but now if we can go ahead.
Exactly. Just if we can go back, maybe you're not going to the same place I am, but where we came from in the first place, we were talking about miry clay. It's funny, you guys.
We were talking about Gentile nations.
Yeah, but that's the miry clay.
No, I don't think that's the miry clay. I think that's
the miry clay in this scenario is the fact that y'all were arguing things and it's mucky waters. I'm just using yet another metaphor. But I just wanted to read verse 44, which says, we don't even have to get into the miry clay because it says, and in the days of these kings, shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break into pieces, and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Now, read that carefully again, because I had to read it like 40 times. The kingdom shall not be left to other people. I mean, if you just take that as it is, like, think about what that says. Okay, so nobody else is going to get it, but if you keep reading, the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break into pieces. So the kingdom that we're talking about here will break into pieces, and it will consume all the other kingdoms, and it will stand forever. So which kingdom is the one that's breaking into pieces?
Well, that's the kingdom Jesus described over and over again. It's like, a rod of iron is used as to describe it as well, but it's not really a rod of iron. It's just it's a kingdom that actually starts as a mustard seed and grows, or like a dragnet that grabs all kinds of manner of fish. This is the kingdom. It's the new covenant.
Right, but which is the one that breaks into pieces?
That's it, the new covenant.
Exactly. Not the Roman Empire. That's right. Not breaks into pieces.
So if we could go back to verse 34, because there's a lot in there still.
Sure.
So, I mean, we're pretty much almost skipping so far one of the most important things of this chapter.
Oh, not skipping it. Just talking about the statue in like a...
Yeah, so verse 44, I saw till that a stone was cut without hands. Would we all say that's Christ?
Amen.
I would. No doubt the others.
Yeah. Just like Matt said, Psalm 2, that's Christ being enthroned in his kingdom. He started ruling in the midst of his enemies. Amen.
Right, so keep going, Rob, because it gets fun.
So, which smote the image upon his feet that were iron, clay, and break them to pieces. So now we're talking to Albert's question. Who was broken to pieces?
Exactly. And I won't tell you my opinion until after you answer.
So if we say Christ broke his own people into pieces, we would have to say that he broke them into pieces to scatter them on the earth to share the gospel, would be one view. And then the other view, I guess, would be that he broke the Roman army and the Jews, as we mentioned, Israel, the unclean Israel, that they were the miry clay, and he broke them into pieces. Those are basically the two views, right?
Well, let me read it again in my version. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, which were of iron and clay, and break them into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Iron and clay broke them into pieces. That's all I'm saying. Like,
so you're saying the iron and clay broke them into pieces. So you're saying that the iron was Rome and apostate Jerusalem broke the believers into pieces?
No, what I'm saying, isn't that what happened? Like, dude, like he broke everybody into pieces. Like the second you learned about the Lord, didn't you get broken into pieces?
That's true. There's another
way.
I've
never heard that before till tonight, so it's something to think about.
Well, he's right in a way, because Paul says the law slayed me. It killed me. It worked all manner of sin in me. It works wrath. So in a way, we are broken to pieces by the law when we come to Christ.
Yeah, and what's the verse where Jesus says the stone? He whom the stone falls on will be broken to pieces.
Yeah,
let's look at
Matthew 21 up.
Well,
You go ahead. Sorry,
I think
man.
Zechariah
Yeah.
12:3, I think, might give the answer, maybe. Because it says, in that day I will make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. All that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. So it's saying those that burden themselves with Jerusalem are the ones being cut in pieces, it seems.
No doubt. And isn't that the same thing we just talked about?
Well, no, you were saying it was the believers. You said when I accepted Christ, I was cut into pieces. So I think you're saying two different things now.
No, it's always the same thing. It's both. Both are being broken into pieces at the same time.
But there's another way to look at this, guys, because you have this statue where the statue depicts the Gentile powers that are ruling over God's people for a certain amount of time. It's I call it the statue of limitations. So this is going to come to an end, right? Now, if the stone everybody says, well, how did this work? Because the Roman Empire wasn't destroyed; it kept going for years.
Exactly.
But what's being crushed is the idea that man will rule over God's people. It's really a concept that's being crushed.
Exactly.
You can't look at it like it's these Rome is done away with in 70 AD.
Right. It wasn't.
It
doesn't. When it says he shall destroy them with the brightness of his coming, it's not talking about the Roman Empire or soldier.
If you look in Revelation, the beast is thrown into the lake of fire. I think the Roman Empire was judged during that period.
That was the height.
After 68, I think you guys would agree with that. You know what I mean? The Jews were judged and the Romans, in a sense. You know, after 68, they had the year of the four emperors. Tacitus talks about and how it was in convulsions, the empire. So I believe God was working judgment then too, vindicating the martyrs.
Right. And like I like to say, there's like we had huge empires that took over basically the whole known world at the time, right? Like we don't have that kind of crap anymore. They are all broken into pieces, literally.
We kind of do. We got some empires, but the thing why
it's not like it used to be. It's not like Rome or Persia where like they took over the whole John. Like
right, but think about this, Albert. It's not like the stone being cut out without hands and being hurled down. It's not like its purpose was to just do away with some empires. Its purpose was to do away with empires ruling over God's people, because what was about to happen was that change from one nation being God's people to every nation, tribe, and tongue being God's people. So
of course, that's why it breaks and shatters into pieces.
Right.
That's why you see the miry clay mixed with the iron. It's all the same difference, right?
It's just a different way to look at it. Like
we're totally the same. We're like looking at the same diamond from the same perspective, but you're like maybe getting a glint in your eye. I'm just kidding. Maybe I'm getting a glint in my eye. I don't know.
Maybe I got a plank in my eye.
Maybe I do too. I don't know.
So who do we think in verse 34? I mean, how would you explain it, Albert? Because I'm not really sure what you're thinking.
Okay, well, it says, all right, so he's just got done talking about the statue, and then it says, thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet. Okay, well, that still goes with what I'm saying metaphorically. Both were smoten with Jesus at the same time. Okay, and then they break into pieces. It all makes sense in my mind.
Yeah, but who's the both is what I'm trying to ask you.
The Jew and the Gentile, both. Both, all of the believers. Both, all of the believers.
So you're saying that break them into pieces was the believers?
Well, it broke them into pieces, and then the pieces are the believers. Like, there's other pieces that aren't believers as well, I guess. But
so it broke Rome into pieces of believers, basically.
Rome, it broke the people of Rome. Just like it broke the people of Israel.
Well, that's what I meant by Rome. I wasn't saying the.
Just like it
I
broke
wasn't.
the people of Jamaica. Just like it broke.
That's what I meant by Rome, the people of Rome.
Yes.
So it broke the people of Rome into pieces, which are the pieces with believers, is what you're saying.
Yes, they got broken and they became believers. There's where you see, you know, part strong, part, you know, I don't know how to
Gotcha.
100% nail it down, but I think I'm onto something.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I'm looking at the statue as a history. What does the statue depict? It depicts Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome ruling over Israel, and then mingling with Israel at that time.
Correct.
And then the stone doesn't hit it at its head; it hits it at its feet, so that all of that stuff comes down. And what happens there? Israel is done away with.
Yep.
Right. So, I mean, we have the two views, I think, established. We can probably move on and maybe that'll make sense.
Well, I'm just saying, like, think about it before you go there, before you end it. I just want to say, like, Babylon was taken over by Persia, which was taken over by Greece, which was taken over by Rome. All of these kingdoms break into pieces. Think about it. It's saying the whole world, they're all going to be subject to this. Get it? Like, all of these plus those guys, there you go. Done deal. So, yeah, now we can move on.
Well, it's breaking the feet, though. I don't think it's breaking the whole statue.
Breaking the entire... Well, if you break the feet, dog, the statue's going to fall down and shatter.
Right. So, okay. So, verse 35. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, silver, gold broken into pieces together. So, yeah, the whole thing was broken, like you said.
Oh,
and this is where I think it's really interesting, I think, that I wanted to talk about, especially with Matthew, since you don't agree with us. And I'd like you to, but, you know, it says, and they became chaff of summer threshing floors, and the wind carried them away, that no place was found for them. I mean, doesn't that sound like Matthew 24 with the everything being burned up?
I mean, it's a similar.
I mean, doesn't it?
Yeah, similar idea.
And then, so you could see the similar idea. So that's cool. So
yeah,
and the stone that.
And I believe Matthew 24 is fulfilled in 70 AD.
Yeah, so I think it'll get interesting here, though. But I think part of Matthew 24 you put in the future, though. I think the second coming.
It might be an illusion, like what he says in John 6. I'll raise him up at the last day. I mean, I think the last day really is the last day, but I don't think.
But I mean, you see the similarity.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the wind carried them away. No place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. So at that time, you know, Matthew 24, the burning of the people, the threshing floor, similarity. Then he fills the whole earth. You know, the great mountain is Christ, you know, or the church, however you want to look at it. Both, basically, you know, Christ inside us. And, you know, and it kind of goes a little bit, what Albert was saying is that this statue had just been smashed into pieces. Now these pieces are going to fill the whole earth. So, I mean, that's a possibility. I'm not saying, I mean, Albert said that. I mean, that is a possibility for Albert's support, it seems like, in this verse 35. And like I said, this is the first time I've heard it, so I'm just trying to, you know, take it all in. Did anyone else have anything on 35 or thoughts on it? You were saying, Joel?
Well, I'm just saying on 35, you know, like, you know, isn't there a verse somewhere? I just want to mention it before Joel goes, but like, don't be carried away by any wind of doctrine or something like that. And they were carried away by the wind. You know, I'm just like, I think I've heard this somewhere before. No place was found for them. Like, come on. This is.
Oh, yeah, that's in Revelation, isn't it?
Maybe. It might even be. We just read that. How terrible are we?
No, it says they were fleeing, and and no place was found for them for heaven and earth.
Yeah, no
You
place
know,
was found for them. That's for that. But what about being carried away by the wind? Because that's another thing.
well, I think that comes before the no place was found for them.
Well, of course, because they're being carried about by every wind of doctrine. Like, what is it? Is it my man
I think these were the people that were getting burned up in 70 AD.
being blown away, being blown about, blown around by any whatever wind of doctrine? Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I just now it's recording. So
No, just Psalm chapter 2. I think Matt brought it up. The rod of iron, which we see used all over the place in the New Testament for the ascension of Christ, but also for the consummation of the kingdom at his second coming. But in Acts chapter 4, it's very interesting because all through Acts, it's just the Jews, right? The Jews, they killed Jesus, they killed Jesus. Well, Peter says here, why, and he's quoting Psalm chapter 2, why did the Gentiles rage and the peoples devise futile things, and the kings of the earth took their stand, and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ? End quote. That's Psalm 2, 1 and 2. Verse 27, for truly in this city, Jerusalem, he's still preaching in the temple probably, there were gathered together against your holy servant Jesus, whom you appointed, both Herod, Pontius Pilate, the Gentiles, and the peoples of Israel. And so Psalm chapter 2, according to Peter here, is pretty much, and if you read Psalm chapter 2, God laughs at them, that they would try to deter his son to sit on his throne. It says God in the heavens laugh. And so Psalm chapter 2, that text would be used in him ruling in the midst of his enemies, not just against the Jews, but Peter here in Acts 4 makes a special mention of the Gentiles as well. So I think that ties in a bit maybe with Daniel 2, 34 and 35.
So that was Acts where?
That's Acts 4, 25 through 27. Yeah.
I was looking at what I was talking about, Matt. What I thought was in Matthew 24 is actually in Matthew 3. Go back here. So we're at Daniel 2:35. In Matthew 3, it says, whose fan is in his hand, and he will thoroughly purge his floor and gather his wheat into the garner, but he'll burn up the shaft with unquenchable fire. I mean, don't you put this at the second coming?
Who are you asking, Rob?
Matthew. Yeah.
That's 70 AD.
Okay.
That's what I think. Yeah, the
I
language.
mean, here it says, every good fruit cast into the fire.
You know, these prophecies are so obscure sometimes, especially like we're just looking at Psalm 2, right? And it's talking about the breaking the nations with a rod of iron, or breaking them with a rod of iron. And then it talks about Jesus getting the nations for his inheritance, almost like he's going to destroy the inheritance. But the thing is, all these prophecies, they talk about the destruction of Jerusalem, but they also talk about the destruction of the nations, but it's not what it means, because you have to interpret the Old Testament like in light of what the New Testament writers write about it. And you have to take that mystery that Paul writes in Ephesians, that even Peter says the prophets didn't know about the timing. They didn't know what they were writing. But Paul says that the mystery was that Jew and Gentile would be co-heirs in one body, one new man in Christ. And if this was a mystery, then the prophecies that talk about the Gentiles, you're not going to go into the Old Testament and read. You'll read things like he will be a light to the nations, but it was still considered a mystery in Paul's mind.
Yeah.
Because the Jews didn't know what that meant.
It's the same thing that I was just bringing up with the clay and the iron. Same thing. That's the same mystery right there. Boom. Done.
Right.
It says right here in 35, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth.
Right. So
it does say
now.
Both the image and the image was the feet. So I think Albert would be more right.
No. Well, I'm just saying the image was smitten by the stone, and the stone became the mountain. And who's the stone? It's Jesus. Jesus became the mountain. So obviously.
Okay, so yeah, the stone. Yeah, so I'm not convinced one way or the other. You corrected me even when I tried to support you there for a moment, Albert.
I have to do that. No, sorry, my bad. I ruined my own plot.
That's all right.
We have to have correct facts here.
Right.
But that's why I wanted to say, speaking about the mystery, I wanted to say to Joel when we were talking about Romans earlier, that because there's that mystery in the Old Testament that Paul says was there, the thing reads in the Old Testament as though the promise will be fulfilled, but yet that promise was really in a mysterious, it was couched in mystery, and it changes. It's a better covenant, or a better covenant built on better promises. So the covenant of Israel is fulfilled in that, or in the manner that people believe in Christ and get saved. That's how it's fulfilled. It says that in Acts 13, I believe it's 13:48. I'm going to turn there really quick. Is it 48? No. Oh, I wish I knew exactly what this verse is right now because I want to read it.
All right. Well, I'll pray that the Lord gives you an angel
Yeah.
in your ear right
now. Wait, it's in Acts. Okay, so here I got it.
Oh, thanks, Lord.
I was close. All right, so
thank you, Lord.
Who's preaching here? I think it's Paul. He was seen for many days by those who came up with him from Galilee to Jerusalem, who are his witnesses to the people, and we declare to you glad tidings, that promise which was made to the fathers. God has fulfilled this for us, their children, in that he has raised up Jesus. And then he quotes the second psalm, speaking of the second psalm.
Yeah.
As it is written in the second psalm, you are my son, today I've begotten you. So the promise is fulfilled in the resurrection of Christ.
Who do you say that to? That's important.
Antioch. Where's it? Acts 13?
Acts 13.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. That's part of the video. I cover Acts, all the there's so many promises there. Psalm 2.
So that's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said. This day I've, begotten you. You are my son. That's what.
Well, that's the resurrection of Christ. Today I've begotten you. That's the enthronement of Christ. That's exactly what that is.
Right.
Which of the angels?
Yeah.
That'd be the point where the stone was cut without hands, right?
That's exactly right. It's basically the change. When Jesus comes over to the woman at the well and explains to her, look, you're not gonna worship as a Samaritan over in Mount Gerizim, and the Jews are not going to be worshiping in Mount Moriah, but true worshipers are going to worship in spirit and in truth. It's Nicodemus. You need to be spiritually born again. It's this change that's going to happen after the cross. Once I'm lifted up, then I'll draw all men, as opposed to only those whom the Father draws can come in John 6:44. Once I'm lifted up in John 12:32, I will draw all men to myself. This is a whole big shift.
And all those kingdoms which were pagan nations are all consumed by this as well, because one was taken over by the other. So when he breaks Rome, he breaks them all. They all fall apart, and they all become his kingdom, because guess who just walked up on the scene?
Correct.
Jesus Christ.
Dog.
Right?
Not dog.
Just the one time I'm allowed to say Jesus Christ, and like, it's profanity. Like, you know how people be like, how dare you say his name like that? They're like, well, who else am I gonna call out for? What do you want me to say? Like Hare Krishna? Like, what do you want me to say? Like, when I stub my toe, I'm gonna be like, Jesus Christ. I'm not gonna be like, oh Buddha, or like, dang Vishnu.
All I could say is I promised myself I'd get off at 11 o'clock.
All right, we'll do it.
Thanks a lot for making this really good.
No, thank you for making it really good.
Awesome conversation, Matt, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it was nice, guys. I got to get going. Bless. Have a good night.
Peace. May the Lord put you to sleep swiftly.
Yeah, right?
Good night.
Well rested.
Night, Stace.
Good night.
All right. Don't let somebody leaving the conversation kill it.
Do what?
Terrible.
I'm just grabbing a bite, so it took me a moment, but I was listening. So I think we're back at Daniel 2:36. I think, aren't we?
Yeah, the wind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right after that, the smote the image and became a great mountain, filled the whole earth. That sounds like Jesus to me, like the gospel and all that jazz.
Yeah. So I think even though Matthew puts the threshing floor in 70 AD, most dispensationalists would put the threshing floor at his second coming. And then I think it's interesting here that after the threshing floor, the great mountain fills the whole earth. So I think it's very full preterist verse in 35. But 36, it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess, the interpretation of the dream.
Yeah, he's just telling them, like, this is what it is, and it's like good to go. Yep.
Just chewing if you want to go to verse 37.
Oh, verse 37, yeah. And then it says, this is the interpretation. Like, this is Daniel just coming up on the scene, and he's about to give the king, like, yo, this is what I just came to tell you. Thou, O king, art king of kings. For the God of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And whosoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art his head of gold. This head of gold.
Why does he call him the head of gold? That's kind of weird. I guess that was during Daniel's time, huh?
Yeah, it was during Daniel's time, and he's the head of gold, so they wouldn't necessarily see it from our perspective, where we can be like looking back and being like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." No,
right. So Babylon, that was the Babylon.
Nebuchadnezzar was the king or kingdom of gold. Then after that came the next guy, Medo-Persia, which was, I guess you would have to say, starting with Cyrus, which God also chose, because see, the thing here is that he said, it says very clearly that, like, God gave unto him, like, it was God that made him the friggin' king in the first place, right? Like,
right.
It's God who raises up a king and also brings him down, for example, in Nebuchadnezzar's case. So the second one has to be Persia, which I think is Cyrus. The third one,
I think you just brought up an interesting thing, because most people would say, well, Nebuchadnezzar, he was an evil king. He took over the Israelites. He brought them into captivity.
Right.
He was horrible. He was like, name your favorite emperor, king, or ruler, Stalin, yeah, all the above, people would say, well, he, was evil or whatever, but, here it's saying God set up the kings.
Yeah, exactly. He's the one who picked Nebuchadnezzar to be the king in the first place. He knew full right well what he was going to do, I would imagine.
It's pretty interesting. Persia, they were very, Cyrus and the Persians in general, when they conquered someone, they gave them autonomy. I'm not sure if they exiled them, but they gave them autonomy and a lot more freedom than, say, the Assyrians, which were ruthless, the Babylonians as well. But Persia kind of stands out, I guess, as one of the empires of the ancient Near East that was, treated those that they conquered, they gave them autonomy and whatnot, right? They weren't ruthless.
Right. Exactly, just like, that's exactly what they did. Just like Alexander after them, he would not go in and he would conquer them per se, but then he would just let them have dominion. Same reason why Cyrus, who conquered the Babylonians, let the Israelites go back to their land and rebuild their temple. That's why he's the one who gave the decree. It was the Cyrus that it mentions. It all makes sense. To me,
to me, it's been a long time since I've looked at the 70 weeks in Daniel in general, but in studying it before, the decree, in my opinion, was Cyrus. I think that's pretty clear that it would.
I think you missed that. We talked about that earlier. How it came with Cyrus.
We'll bring that up then.
That's okay. Well, just to cover it for you real quick. We looked that up, and Cyrus was the person that decreed it, and then so did Darius, and then Artaxerxes did, but the fulfillment didn't happen until Artaxerxes' time.
But the thing is, it's when the decree would go out originally. You know what I mean?
Right. We know 457 to 458, and then you had 69 weeks to Christ's first coming, basically.
I don't think you could do a mathematical. I mean, that's just my opinion. You can't really do a mathematical to 70 AD.
You can.
If you start with Cyrus.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
No, not with Cyrus, but Artaxerxes. Cyrus made it.
I think you guys.
It's literal. I can show you the count.
I think you guys are both getting caught up on something that's clearly, in my vision, how are we to tell? I noticed you have this chart. We're all saying these things like Artaxerxes. Cyrus.
Because later on it tells us that it was in the 19th year of his reign.
But let me bring
in the Bible.
Let me pretend to be Zach for a second. What calendar are y'all using? Because I know that they're not using the same calendar we are, because Julius Caesar didn't even
I used both on my chart.
They used the lunar calendar, the Jews.
Yeah, I used the Julian here.
Okay.
Over on the just counting the days, and then the normal calendar that we would use, and then I just counted this is the biblical year here.
But still, that's not the calendar that they would be using.
All I did was count the years. So from creation, 1 year. So I just matched it up. That way you could say what year was it biblically to history's year.
Sure.
So, but that decree came in, I don't know if you can see my screen, Joel, but that came in 457, 458, depending on. People go either way on that. But if you go 69 weeks, looks like I might have, where are we at here? It would take you right up to his baptism, 483 years.
But the ending of the 70 weeks is AD 70. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that, when we get into some of the more, but because Albert had mentioned that it's straight 70 weeks in a row, which would take you to 33 AD.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
And then we were talking about, it's in 70 AD, so there'd be a gap in between
Again,
the 69 and the 70th week.
again, that's according to our calendars. Like,
Yeah,
Well, does it make a difference what calendar?
you know,
There's still a time period.
You know what, Rob, and guys, I found an interesting article before by Meredith Klein, and he was an Old Testament scholar, and I actually read another one the other day. What was he talking about? I was going to bring up earlier. I forget, but I like Klein. He did an article on the 70 weeks, and he says it's a symbolic. He said there's no way, and I think he's right. There's no way you can mathematically, no matter where the decree is. And he's talked about how it would be like the Jubilees. It was a symbolic period of time, but it's been a long time since I read that. But you guys might want to, if you guys want to read it, I can. Or even if you Google Meredith Klein 70 weeks, you could probably find it. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, totally.
I'm open. I'm always open to other suggestions and that. I remember studying it before. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, how can I make this work to 70 AD? It's not working.
It can be mathematically in a row, but when we get to that chapter, I'll bring it up.
Again, like there's the whole confusion about, like, okay, does it go from 1 BC to 1 AD, or is there a year 0, or like when was Jesus born? Like all this stuff, like, you know, like all these things, like all times.
Yeah, but you can't say from 30 AD to 70 AD was no time pane. That was 40 years, no matter what calendar you look at.
But like,
you
don't know what their calendar was per se, do you? You don't know what it was.
Yeah, we know what it was.
It was a lunar.
Even at the minimum, you'd have to say it was 360 days according to Genesis.
Okay, I'm back. What'd I miss? I'm just kidding.
Nothing. You missed nothing.
Talking about the whole universe, everything.
Well, we're just blabbing about this and that, and
not really. I had a point there. Dang it. But
most people will say that the Bible says it's 360 days at minimum.
Like, we're all sitting here arguing over, like, there's a gap between here, there's a gap between there. It's like, but guys, what if there was no gap? Like, what if, like, it all works out on a calendar, which we don't have anymore because
yeah, but you can't make a calendar disappear 30 years, no matter how you look at it, or 40 years. Excuse me.
Disappear? It's still there. It's just somebody has yet to work it out.
No, Rob's right. And no matter what calendar years, you got 30 years. But they did. I'm pretty sure they did use a lunar calendar, and you can look that lunar calendar up today. And I'm not too. I think it was 354 days they had in their year. I could be wrong. In that lunar calendar, then there's another one that was 360. But see, I looked into the lunar calendar before because coming out of Adventism. And the lunar calendar really screws up these, these groups that want to keep the feasts and the Sabbath on Saturday, Friday sunset. Because the lunar calendar,
the Enoch calendar, the lunar calendar, and then you got the lunar that say it's the crescent, some that say it's the black, some that say it's the full moon. You got like all kinds of different groups.
Is that right? Yeah, that it's trying to hold on to the Sabbath, yeah.
I hope we get Isaiah because it's going to bring up the Sabbath debate again. So I know that was on one of Stacy's thing, but we'll get to that eventually.
Isaiah 56 and Isaiah 66.
I was reading. It's way more than just that. It's but yeah, those are definitely some of them.
Well, the same text that mentioned the Sabbath mentioned the Levites and the sacrifice, offering sacrifices in Jerusalem. So, I don't know.
Right. I'll be right back. If you guys want to keep on going, Daniel, I'll be right back.
So when are you guys going to get into Isaiah? Do you guys, Albert, do you know, or? Albert's going
Isaiah. Isaiah had an honorable mention when we were like considering what books to go through, so it might be right around the corner, you know.
Well, that's good, Stacy. That's good. I love Isaiah.
Yeah, I do too, and we've been kind of referring to it a lot lately, so I guess it would be good. I think the problem that people tend to think is because it has like 66 chapters and it takes us so long to get through a book. I mean, that'll like cover 6 months or something, but you know, it would still be worthwhile to do.
Oh yeah.
And the other options that are honorable mentions is one of the Gospels, because you know we always go back to them every now and then, you know, as a routine thing. So
Well,
we had covered John twice, and we'd cover the Synoptic Gospels all at least once. So, but it's good to go back, you know, and revisit them every now and then too. We've covered
well,
just about every New Testament book twice. Revelation was the first we've done that. So, but we've done Hebrews 2 times and Romans 2 times or so, Galatians and Ephesians and all of those as well.
What do you guys think of verse 39 in Daniel, where it says, it shall rule over all the earth, and that's the third kingdom. You know, and people will say, the way, at least that's the way I'm reading it, the third kingdom shall rule over all the earth. Well, people will say, well, that has to go all over the earth, but clearly the third kingdom didn't go over all the earth.
Well, is it the earth like Paul uses, you know, of all the known civilized world?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to hint at. You know,
I would see it probably. Yeah.
It clearly is. It says, and after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee. It's the next kingdom in the line. Will rule over all the earth. All the ones that they had. Like, think about it. The previous guy, Babylon, had a whole certain swath of land, the whole known earth. Then comes in Persia. They swat them dudes out and they conquer even more. And then the Greece people come in, Alexander the Great, they take even more. And then
but they rule over all the earth. You know, people want to say, you know, the whole earth is going to be destroyed, all the earth is going to be destroyed, but it was just talking about that area. And here's the verse where it clearly says all the earth, and people always want to say it has to mean every single person's going to see Christ, where
Right.
It says all the earth will see, but it was just that area. Clearly they would say all the earth didn't mean all the earth here.
that's where you have to do like a little like how Armand would do, and just like change that word there where it says earth, because I don't know if you noticed, but yours is at least it's a lowercase earth. Not that that means anything. I haven't looked that far, but the lowercase earth, so it's probably land.
Well, I noticed the E is pretty round.
Well, if it was an uppercase earth, then I would expect it to be the entire earth. But if it's a lowercase earth, it's just the land you're talking about.
Does it do that in the King James, capital and lower?
I do not know. I have not looked.
Yeah, I don't know either. That would be interesting. So verse 40, I guess.
What I got to get going here, guys, because when I came in, I just joined the group, but I was at the gym. I got to get showered up and eat.
No worries. We're almost done anyway.
Well, what are you guys going to be doing next time if I can make it there? Daniel 3 or?
Correct. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know how far we're going to get. We usually don't get more than one
Yeah,
deep.
we started with Daniel 1 tonight and went for 2. We stepped up to the plate.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind then. The next couple chapters. But yeah, I should get going here. But thanks for the study, guys. It was this is probably the best study since I joined. I think it was pretty good.
Nice.
Cool.
That means I'm doing a good job of being the leader.
No, I enjoyed them all, man. I'm happy to be here. You know, any chance I get to study, especially with like-minded believers, you know, yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Well, keep working out, Joel. Good job.
Yeah, flex them muscles every time you get a chance.
Oh, geez, I took a couple months off, man, and my metabolism's like a snake, so I lose all I lose all the size. Yeah. But no, I could talk about this stuff all day. The Word of God. It's great.
Amen. Well, sleep good, brother. It's good talking with you.
Okay, guys, have a good one.
You too. Night. God bless.
So you were saying, Rob, 40. No.
Yeah, 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, that iron that breaketh all these shall break in pieces and bruise. Shall it break, that it's a pretty important word. Shall it break in pieces and bruise. Here it seems to be saying that the iron Rome is going to break those pieces. Is that the way? I mean, that's kind of more the way you were thinking. Seems
And the
like.
fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron, for as much as iron break into pieces and subdueth all things, in pieces and subdueth all things. Okay, so that's like a reiteration. That can be completely eliminated from the text. Like, you don't even have to, you can totally ignore that. So let me do that again. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, so much as iron breaketh into pieces, and as iron that breaketh all these, shall it break into pieces and bruise. So the one that's breaking into pieces here is it, the fourth kingdom, which is exactly what it did.
Yeah, the easy reading reads a little bit more like you were saying. It says, then there will be a fourth kingdom. The kingdom will be strong like iron. Just as iron breaks things and smashes them to pieces, that fourth kingdom will break all the other kingdoms and smash them to pieces.
And itself also will be smashed to pieces.
Or are we going to see that later on, or were you thinking that was before?
It's included in that, like all these kingdoms, like all of them, including the one you're talking about, the fourth one. They're all going to break into pieces.
Let's keep reading maybe, or see if that'll give us a thing. Let's go back to the King James, verse 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, so now we're getting more into description, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of strength of iron, for as much sawest the iron mixed with merry clay. And I'll read the next verse too, because it kind of goes with it. And as the toes of the feet were part iron and part clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Let's see how the easy reading.
Right.
You saw that the feet and toes of the statue were partly clay and partly iron. That means the fourth kingdom will be divided. It'll have some of strength of iron, just as you saw the iron mixed with clay. The toes of the statue were partly iron and partly clay, so the fourth kingdom will be partly strong like iron and partly weak like clay. See, the way I've looked at it is maybe like the fourth kingdom was an eternal kingdom. So like in this verse, in 42, I'd be saying like made of part believers and part non-believers.
Right.
I'm just thinking that.
No, I mean, that's kind of where I was going with it as well. But the clay is, at that rate, the believers. But I mean, this is the thing that always hung me up from the fallen angel thing, right? Like it does tie back to that.
I don't get where you bring that in at all. I don't see anything to do with this. Maybe other people are bringing it up, but I don't see where they get that idea at all.
Well, you wouldn't, but they take one little text out of context. That's how. But it says, and then the seed of men, right there. That's the thing. It says, and whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they, who's they, shall mingle themselves with the seed of men.
Okay, so they're saying that the angels are coming again, basically.
Yeah, they're saying clearly, like, okay, well, they're talking about the seed of men, so like this other dude or other beings that are coming, like they're clearly like something else that's not men.
Okay.
Like, no, you don't have to read it that way. Where
Gotcha.
thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Who's that? They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. And I can recall also verses where it says the holy seed. Okay, so like I'm just putting two and two together and saying, whereas thou sawest them mixed with miry clay, them being the holy seed, mixed with miry clay, the regular people, the Gentiles, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Because every time in the Bible you look up seed of men or children of men or daughters of men, it's almost always bad. But when you look up sons of God, it's always good.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think what I said earlier about it being an ongoing kingdom is going to be ixnayed in a couple of verses here, but
all right.
So we might have to take back the non-believer believer part. I'm not sure. Just like some of that's new to me.
Right. Sometimes.
So, verse 43. Maybe we can jump back to 42 when we read some of this more here. So you saw the iron mixed with clay, but the iron and clay don't completely mix together. In the same way, people of the fourth kingdom will be a mixture. They will not be united as one people.
Exactly. And you had that on like multiple fronts. There's multiple ways you could say, like, first off, the Romans were like super like getting all sorts of like mercenaries, if you will. Those are other people. And then also they were governors and, over many different people. All the previous kingdoms which they had conquered. Right.
I guess I would kind of say it like this, kind of like you got Rome coming into.
Like, I'm just saying, like, people get in their head because we're taught history. Like, you think of Romans and you think like Romans, right? But like, think about Romans, like when they just first came onto the scene in the first place. Who did they take over? The Greeks. Well, who did the Greeks take over just not that long ago before that? The Persians. So there's many different people that they're now reigning over. Yeah. It's not just like, oh, these are the Romans. They're all just a bunch of white guys with some shields and spears. Like,
yeah, I wasn't thinking it the way you said, but I mean, that definitely makes sense as well. I was thinking like the Romans came into Jerusalem. The Jerusalem didn't quite mix together, but yet they kind of got together. The clay and iron kind of stuck, but it kind of didn't stick. And so they kind of got along for a while, but then they had some problems. But yeah, I see what you're saying too. That, kind of like the America, the melting pot. Rome was the melting pot of nations, a mixture. Exactly. But they weren't kind of like we're not united as well behind Trump, half the countries.
So they're mixed, and that's why it doesn't bind together, because you got people against each other, which makes sense from what they say in the end times. Like, I send brother against brother and all this shenanigans. Like, it's.
So let's go to verse 44. So yeah, that definitely could be maybe shed some light on those couple thoughts. So during the time of the kings of the fourth kingdom, God of heaven will set up another kingdom that will continue forever. Full preterism.
Totally.
It will never be destroyed. Full preterism.
Bam.
And it'll be because it's set up during this fourth kingdom. Now,
no doubt.
Matthew would argue that the kingdom will go forever, but it was set up back then. It's not set up in the future, and the one that was set up then is the one that lasts forever, and that one will never be destroyed.
So Matthew, if you listen to this, write that in your copybook. Because I don't know what he would say to that. I was about to give you an answer for what he would say, but I'm not even sure. I don't want to answer for him.
Sure. And it will be the kind of kingdom that cannot be passed on to another group of people. This kingdom will crush all the other kingdoms. It will bring them to an end, but that kingdom itself will continue forever. So you would have to say eventually.
That's what I would say. Like the easy reading version is becoming my friend really good.
That's why I like it, because it's like
Like, can you please
the funny thing is the easy reading version really doesn't interpret it the way
it just reads it like a noob. It just
it's just reading it for what the Bible says. You know?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
When you read that one, when you bust that one out, it's always a good day.
I definitely like it.
But that's exactly what I was thinking. Like all these kingdoms will be just like it said. So easy reading. During the time of the fourth kingdom of these kings, like
let's just go back to the King James, because some people might say, "Oh, the King James doesn't say that." So let's read 44.
Yeah, I got the 1611 King James, but don't tell me it's easy, because first off, you know.
So King James says, in the days of these kings, that's still the same, shall God of heaven set up a kingdom, that's still the same, which shall never be destroyed, that's still the same, because it says, in the days of these kings shall God set up a kingdom.
Yeah, these kings.
So those kings.
These kings.
Right, yeah. Not in the future did that kingdom get set up. It got set up back then, and that one will never be destroyed. The kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms. So yeah, the break in pieces is, like you said, isn't it? That's the way I say it.
Yeah, it broke them all into pieces. Why? Because now everybody is for the Lord. Like they're all broken into pieces. There is no more Rome. There is no more Greece. There is no more, like, not like that. There's still the nation of Greece, but look at it. Nothing
so
like
shall break in pieces and fill the earth.
And that's exactly what we did. Fill it like a mountain. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For as much as thou sawest the stone that was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold. So it broke all those mixtures of people. Yep. The great God had made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. A dream is certain interpretation thereof. Sure. So yeah, I think you were spot on, Albert.
Yeah, and also, like, he starts off with this, and he's telling the king the things that are going to be hereafter, only up until a certain point, the 70 weeks, and then at the end of the 70 weeks, that's the end. So you get it? Like, you see? Like, it all goes full circle here.
God had made known to the king what shall come to pass, and the dream is certain in the interpretation of the seer. What are you saying about the hereafter part? I guess you lost me there.
The Lord was showing Nebuchadnezzar all things that would happen up until a certain point, 70 AD.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's it. Only up until 70 AD, and that's it.
Right.
That's what his dream was about.
Well, and the consuming these nations, and it shall stand forever. That's
right.
That's the earth going on for eternity.
Also, that verse about it shall be not left to another people. Like, because that's the thing that was happening in that prophecy. Like, it was the Persians were going to take over. That's being left to another people, and then being left to another people again, and then another again. But then now it's not being left to another people for some strange reason. You go figure.
Well, the interesting thing too about it, when you think about it being broken to pieces, that really means there's no statue ruling over anybody anymore. You're all a piece of that mountain. You know what I mean?
Yo, for sure. See? Bam. Nice. I like it.
So should we go to 46? Then the king Nebuchadnezzar fell upon his face and worshipped Daniel and commanded that they should offer an oblation and sweet odors unto him. I think that really doesn't need any interpretation.
Yeah, it's basically that the Gentile king was just like, "Oh, my bad, Daniel. Like, how did you know my dream? Like, you just totally reminded me, dude. Like, my gosh, how the wits did you know that?"
Right.
I mean, because come on, if I was like, "Tell me what my dream was, dog," and you told me what it was, I'd be like, "No way." Like,
right.
No,
I don't think I've met anyone that has told me my dream before.
It's like exactly what you dreamed last night, dog.
I don't think I've had too many like spiritual dreams though, like prophecy dreams or anything. So
Never know. Never know.
yeah.
Maybe you just can't interpret them because you're like, I had spiders on my face. Like,
You got to pay for that service, you know.
yeah, you gotta pay.
Rob, did I tell you the dream I had the other night about the giant that I met?
I think you did say something, but it kind of remind me a little bit.
There was this like 30-foot giant, and I was actually speaking to him face to face, eye to eye, on his level. And he looked at me. He knew my name, and I was asking him for his, but he said, "You're the first human being that I've ever actually seen speaking to me at face level, eye to eye." And the only reason why I was able to do that is because I was standing on the shoulders of my brothers.
Oh, neat. That's definitely like a spiritual dream. Yeah, I've had some weird dreams that like definitely I'm like when I wake up I'm like, oh, you know, thank you God for waking me up and giving me that dream, and but nothing that jumps out like just some of my dreams are weird. I think some of my medicine kind of affects my dreams too, I think. But yeah, that's a cool dream, especially you know, because I was gonna ask you before you said standing on your brothers. I was like, what were you floating in the air to see them eye to eye?
Good one. Good question.
I was kind of wondering. I was like, okay, this is
No, clearly I was standing on his shoulder and he was looking over at me.
So verse 47.
Mm-hmm.
The king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth it is that your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing that thou couldst reveal this secret. So it's kind of like what you were saying, Albert. You know, he was like,
what we just said. Like, how did you possibly know my dream? Like, no way. Your God definitely is a God of gods because duh.
I wonder how
there is one other way that you can make the king say, "Oh, you knew my dream exactly," and that would be to play to the king's ego and say, "You're just your dream was that you were the most magnificent of everything," you know, and just really play it up. Well, the king's not going to say, "Well, that's not what my dream was." If you came up with a very impressive dream, he'd say, "Yeah, I did dream that." Or if he was so egotistical, he might actually think he did dream something like that. That's just, you know, I'm not saying that this is what happened in Daniel. I don't believe that at all, but it could happen that way.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, but they, you know, definitely a possibility. However, I think when your life's on the line, you might not risk patting their ego.
Yeah. You might not want to be so cocky. I'm with Rob on that. Like, you're like the guy like we just read. Like,
right, but if your life is on the line,
Captain the guard guy, like, yo, I gotta flag you.
Yeah, if you didn't have any revelation from God, yeah, you definitely might,
exactly. You're gonna be a Jacob in that instance if you don't even have any revelation from God.
I thought
and
that
your life is on
happened
the
with
line.
Daniel. How come we didn't read that? Because I thought that's what happened. I thought the astrologers came and told the king that, and the king said, "Oh, you idiots," or whatever.
No. See, that's the thing. We're about to get there. We haven't gotten that far yet.
No, not yet.
Okay.
See, that's the thing you have to realize about Daniel and all
kind of goes out of order.
They're not necessarily in chronological order because, like, you have to figure the chronology out yourself. That's what we call rightly dividing the word. Yes, a lot of people.
I'm glad.
That around and they're like, you're not rightly dividing the word. It's like, oh, what? Because I don't think Satan's an angel? How am I not rightly dividing? Like, what do you mean by rightly dividing? No, it
means you don't put the chapter breaks in the right spot.
No, it's not even about that. Understanding it correctly.
It was a joke.
Of course. Okay.
Well, I'm glad you didn't cover chapter 4 yet, because I like to go over chapter 4 because chapter 4 was not written by Daniel.
So then be here Friday.
Be here Friday or be square, I guess.
Well, I mean, that is quite many verses to get to 4 and do 4.
If I'm alive.
But 30, 37, I think that's about the same amount we did tonight. 49 plus 21. Okay, yeah, like, come on. It's not a hard thing to do.
So, 48 made them prince, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego also got positions.
Right, and so
But Daniel got the highest.
Right, so far in the story, like, this is the beginning of the story. Like, they're just beginning to get into their thing, and they're like, "Hey, King, like, how's all this stuff?" And now, after this point, which we haven't read yet, we still
hopefully we do 3 and 4 probably Friday night.
You still have to go through like why the 3 other dudes were thrown into the fiery furnace and all that jazz. Like, what did they do? Like, what did they do that was so terrible that Nebuchadnezzar was like, "Screw you guys," even though you've been so helpful. but Daniel doesn't get,
A preview of what's to come.
I mean, it was Daniel that supposedly told him. So,
is Daniel 4 part of that too, Stacy? Or
Daniel 4 is a decree from the king, and so it's written by the king himself. And Daniel 4 is one that's not written in Hebrew. It's written in portions Aramaic and Syriac or something like that. So it's written in a different language, which would make sense because if it was the decree from the king, and the king actually says in Daniel 4, "I am writing this." So, it's just interesting. You think at first glance, well, Daniel wrote the whole book, but no, chapter 4 is not written by Daniel himself.
Okay.
But either way, it does say in verse 48 that, then the king made Daniel. So you're right, Stacy. This is clearly after Daniel's time because it says, then the king made Daniel. That's past. A great man, gave him a great many gifts, made him ruler over the whole province of Babylon. Does that sound familiar anytime ever in the scriptures before?
Just like Pharaoh and Joseph.
I know, right? That's what gets me.
In fact, Joseph and Daniel. I don't think there's a third. I think it's just Joseph and Daniel are the only ones in the Bible that actually the Bible does not say that they did anything at all wrong.
And then that chapter ends with, then Daniel requested, like, so this would be the same difference as if,
that is interesting because I can't really think of anything that Joseph ever did that was like, okay, well, he did this or he did that, like Jacob did, or
right. Abraham even lied because he feared. So he said that Sarah was his actual sister, and so because he feared he didn't trust God,
right,
and caused that king to get very upset and problems. So I mean, all of them all had some type of problems. Moses struck the rock.
Yeah.
Right.
I just have to ask you. Let's see. Who should I ask? Should I ask Rob or should I ask Stacy? Let's see.
Cast lots.
I think I'll ask you, Rob. Then Daniel requested of the king, the last verse. So let's suppose you are Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Rob. Who would you request of the king that be set over the affairs of the province of Babylon?
Who would are my choices Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or are we talking a modern day here?
Yeah, I'm talking about like right now. Am I on that list? Or you can be like, no, Albert, no, I can't do it.
Well, I've thought about that before. Like, okay, if I was president, who would I want on my council?
Not Albert. Definitely not Albert.
I don't see why not. You definitely you guide me. You think differently than I think sometimes, and so you definitely gotta.
That's why it's
help me out. You help me out a lot.
That's why it's awesome because you help me out a lot too. But then it says then Daniel requested of the king. Daniel requested of the king, and he sent.
So I guess if I'm Daniel, I don't get to be president. I would have to.
Daniel requests that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be set over the affairs, and apparently it was done. Like, it was done. So I'm just saying, like, if it were modern days, like, I don't know. Let's see. If it was me, if I was Daniel, I'd probably pick for Meshach, Abednego, and all those guys. I'd probably pick you, Rob. I'd pick Armand, and I think I'd have to say honestly that the last one that I'd pick is Stacy.
I try to get our whole little panel that comes in all the time because kind of stick together and been consistent and
Exactly.
all have different little views, and we see little things that the other person doesn't see. Like I made that one video where I said I was a toenail, and Stacy, a toenail. Like, you're gonna be a toenail. That was great. And but yeah, we're all different pieces and got different views, which help. What I don't know if I remember. Did you ever say what body piece you would be, Stacy?
I never actually really thought about it. I guess I'd be a hand.
That's a good one. Play the harp, the flute, helping people out. That's a good one. Piano. I don't think. Didn't you get a piano a while back? I thought.
Or I'd be the mouth. Yes. I got a piano. It's a
Do you play
grand
it, or?
piano, actually.
Really?
I haven't played it in a little while, no, because I've been so preoccupied with other things. But I found it at a thrift store, and it was only $200. And the only thing is it was out of tune. So I know how to tune pianos, and so I tuned it up. It actually cost me more to move it than it cost to purchase it.
Oh wow. Yeah, I know. I met a guy that was from Texas that was went to the Church of Christ here near me. They came up for like a mission trip and taught like a children's Bible camp, and he tuned pianos for a living and moved them and all that. Kind of did both, moved them and tuned them. That was his main gig or job.
Yeah,
Did we lose you there for a while?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what happened. So there's a chance that the live is going to cut off any second now because of that. I lost my connection. That's very rare.
Well, we were pretty much done anyways. We got them all 49 in.
Mm.
But I thought it will still keep going if it's just a little gap.
Yeah, it's just I have no control over it anymore. It's just going to end in a couple seconds. So say what you will.
All right.
But I mean,
Jesus loves you.
We'll all be able to still be here. It's just the live will cut off. That's all.
Did you get your paperwork done, Stacy?
Well, it's
I did, although
it's not yet. I guess it's not done yet.
Not yet. I can't end it. I can't do it. I would if I could, but I can't.
We could probably all leave and come right back, can't we? That'd do it.
No, like, trust me, like, it's only going to be a matter of, like, it won't be that long. It'll cut off. It has no choice. Because I'm not at the helm anymore. I'm trying to fix
Captain Picard got beamed to the moon.
What about the moon?
I said you got beamed to the moon. I hear Stacy's chimes.
Wow, that's way in the distance.
Really? I can hear him pretty good. So, but I have earphones in or whatever, so it sounds a little crisper.
Like, I know that it cuts off after like if that happens, it's only like 3 or 5 minutes before it cuts off. I mean, if you want to start another one, Rob, or something, like, we could do that.
I think if we just all hop off for like and count to 10 and hop back on, it'll end.
Okay. Cool.
Do you
No.
do you still have your YouTube page open? It's the only thing I can think of.
No, it's just because it takes 5 minutes. That's all. I'll just start.
Alright.
I'll just start a new one and give you guys the link. No big deal.
Okay.
In 2
Okay.
seconds.
Cool.